Chapter 121. Will a ghost's actions leave a flaw because it's too clever? The four of them stood there pondering for a moment. They had no leads and could only continue searching the ancient manor. Perhaps due to the Crimson Door's protective mechanism, the fierce ghost hadn't reappeared for a short while. They quickly searched most of the places in the ancient manor that could provide shelter from the rain. But there was no trace of the script. Damn it, that ghost is really cunning. Where did it hide the script that we can't find it no matter how hard we look? Feng Yu was drenched in sweat, hands on his hips, looking around with a bewildered expression. Bai Xiao bit her lower lip, thought for a moment, and then said softly, "Tell me, is it possible that the ghost never took the script, or that it didn't leave the script in the ancient manor at all?" When Ning Chu Shui heard Bai Xiao say this, she suddenly remembered an important clue, her eyes flashing. "You're right, perhaps we've been tricked by that ghost. Earlier, when the ghost's true form got wet, it was completely soaked. But when I encountered it just now, its body wasn't wet at all." After saying this, Ning Chu Shui pointed to the sky above. "Look at this rain. It's pouring non-stop, and the mountain air is extremely damp and cold. A dozen or so sheets of paper stacked together, if they get wet, even if placed in a dry place, it would be difficult for them to dry completely overnight. So think carefully. Is there any place that could quickly dry a wet script?" The three of them paled slightly. They all thought of the same place. Only a place with fire could quickly dry a wet script. So the real script must be in one of the tents on the clearing. Meng Jun muttered. Ning Chu Shui also said, "Jun Tiao's hint might be correct. Earlier, when we went to the ancient manor to search, the ghost didn't deal with the cameramen but came after us first. It's very likely it wanted to imply that its true form was indeed in this ancient manor, afraid we would find it. But it didn't expect that its dry body would give it away. Let's hurry. Go back to the clearing right now." As soon as Ning Chu Shui finished speaking, the four immediately left the ancient manor and returned to the clearing full of tents from before. The script wasn't something particularly important, as everyone had a copy, and they were almost identical. The only difference was that each script had a different identity written on the cover. It also wasn't the case that whoever held a script with a certain identity had to play that role. If the actors didn't cooperate, having the script was useless. Therefore, no one paid too much attention to the script. The four, including Ning Chu Shui, split up to search. Soon, when they returned to their own tent, Bai Xiao was holding a new script in her hand. "Found it." The four of them saw the script, their eyes all lighting up. If nothing unexpected happened, this script before them must be the true form of the ghost in the ancient manor. As long as they destroyed this script, the ghost would vanish. Don't destroy it hastily. This script definitely contains important clue information. Perhaps we can rely on it to find a way to obtain the puzzle piece and the ghost artifact. Ning Chu Shui said, then took the script from Bai Xiao's hands, opening it to read page by page carefully. The others also gathered behind Ning Chu Shui, scrutinizing it closely. When they finished reading the script's contents, a cold dread flooded their hearts. It wasn't much different from what Ning Chu Shui had guessed earlier. This new script also had roles for all of them. Except in this new script, they weren't explorers coming to the ancient town, but actors, cooperating with the director to film at the old house. The ghost holding scissors also appeared in the script. We really were tricked by the director, damn it. Feng Yu couldn't help but curse. He was truly furious. Even knowing this was the Crimson Door's world, seeing a director willing to gamble with actors' lives just to film a scary horror movie still filled him with rage. If nothing unexpected happens, the ghost artifact in this Crimson Door must be the red scissors in that vicious ghost's hands, Ning Chu Shui said. Suddenly, a cold wind blew through the entrance of their tent. The four immediately became alert. They looked up. A terrifying shadow stood before their tentrance. "Who is it?" Ning Chu Shui asked, his hand gripping the script tightly. If that shadow appeared and tried to attack them, he would tear the script to shreds immediately. The other three were also very tense. They all took out their ghost artifacts, ready to defend against the shadow at the entrance. Someone who could silently appear before their tent entrance was clearly not human. Swish, the tent flap was slowly pulled aside by a pale hand. That familiar yet terrifying face appeared before everyone. This was the eyeless, vicious ghost holding the red scissors. But after entering the tent, it didn't attack anyone. Instead, it stood very dully before Ningqiu Shui, like a puppet. Ningqiu Shui narrowed his eyes slightly to observe, then suddenly said, "Sit down." As his voice fell, a scene that astonished the other three appeared. The eyeless, vicious ghost holding the red scissors actually sat cross-legged before Ningqiu Shui. What the hell? What's going on? Has this ghost become our lackey? Feng Yu was both surprised and delighted. If so, didn't that mean they were not only safe in this crimson door, but also had gained a powerful assistant? Ningqiu Shui tried a few more commands. As long as they were simple commands, the ghost obeyed. It seemed the script in their hands was the ghost's true form. "Give me the scissors," Ningqiu Shui said to the vicious ghost before him. It took the red scissors and gently handed them to him. The moment he touched the red scissors, Ningqiu Shui immediately felt a bone-piercing chill. Based on prior experience, his intuition told him these red scissors weren't just a ghost artifact, but a powerful one, like the ancient book in his chest. After putting the scissors away, Ningqiu Shui looked at his three teammates beside him. "I'll hold on to this for now. We'll decide before we leave. Should we destroy this ghost immediately or keep it? I suggest it's best to get rid of it quickly." Mengjun's voice was cold. "Although its main body is currently in our hands, we are human and need rest. The moment we let our guard down, it could seize its body back. Holding on to this thing is like wielding a double-edged sword, but personally, I prefer to call it a ticking time bomb. We don't need to use it to kill others, so there's no need to keep it." Bai Xiao raised an eyebrow. "We already have a ghost artifact, which is a great bargain. Of course, we should also try to get the puzzle piece. I suggest we can destroy this ghost's main body, but don't tell anyone else for now. We can use this opportunity to thoroughly search the ancient house and try to find the hidden puzzle piece." After she finished speaking, the three of them looked at Feng Yu. The guy shrugged. "Yeah, you guys can decide these matters. No need to ask me. After all, I'm just a lazy person. Hehe." Feng Yu was very self-aware. He wasn't someone with strong opinions, so he didn't want to be involved in the group's decisions. In his view, as long as he didn't drag the team down, with these three bosses leading, they would definitely pass through this crimson door safely this time. With the decision made, Ningqiu Shui decisively threw the new script into the fire. The fierce ghost standing before them, its pitch-black eye sockets filled with an indescribable resentment, couldn't move. Its body spontaneously ignited and quietly turned to ashes in the flames. Seeing the fierce ghost finally disappear, all four of them breathed a sigh of relief. The heavy stone in their hearts was finally set down. After this fierce ghost died, although the red scissors in Ningqiu Shui's hand were still cold, they no longer carried the bone-piercing malice they had before. All right, there's still quite a bit of time before nightfall. The ancient house isn't too big either. Let's split into groups as before, 2 people per group, each searching one side. Mengjun said, "Still splitting into groups? Wouldn't searching individually be faster?" After learning that the fierce ghost behind this crimson door had completely vanished, Feng Yu felt a bit excited and eager to try. Mengjun glanced at him. "Searching individually might be faster, but you could also die faster. We still can't completely rule out the possibility of other dangers in this instance. I suggest it's better to be cautious. Besides, there's still time." Seeing Mengjun say this, Feng Yu didn't insist further. They entered the ancient house and began a thorough search once more. The cameramen inside the ancient house were also particularly cooperative, not encountering any more frightening incidents. It went so smoothly that it felt somewhat unreal. While searching, Ningqiu Shui and Bai Xiao passed by that firewood shed again. Ningqiu Shui suddenly had an idea and stepped inside to look. Looking at the dried, even darkened bloodstains on the floor of the shed, Ningqiu Shui always felt a bit uneasy in his heart. He felt like he had missed something, or perhaps overlooked something. Ningqiu Shui slowly crouched down, looking at the bloodstains on the ground, his brow furrowed. Bai Xiaoxiao noticed Ning Shui's unusual behavior, so she stepped forward, gently placing a hand on his shoulder, and asked softly, "Did you discover something?" Ning Shui shook his head. "Didn't discover anything, I just feel a bit uneasy in my heart." He truly was uneasy. This was the fourth crimson door, and there was even a fragment. So far, only 2 people had died. One of them was even the NPC director Zheng Chao. Was this reasonable? It must be known that this time, 17 people entered the crimson door. 2 days had passed, and there were still 16 people left. It felt like the malevolent ghost with the red scissors was working half-heartedly. The ghosts in other crimson doors wanted to kill everyone immediately, but this one seemed reluctant to kill if possible. "By the way, Sister Bai, when you met Jun Tiao Tiao earlier, did you find anything in the room?" Ning Shui suddenly asked, remembering that Bai Xiaoxiao had deliberately winked at him earlier. Bai Xiaoxiao smiled upon hearing this. "I found a ghost artifact." Ning Shui was slightly stunned. "There's another ghost artifact?" Bai Xiaoxiao nodded, taking something out from her hand. A blood-stained dagger. Seeing this, a spark of insight flashed in Ning Shui's mind. "Are you sure this is a ghost artifact?" Xiaoxiao confirmed, "Absolutely. Touch it and you'll know." Ning Shui reached out and touched the dagger in Bai Xiaoxiao's palm. It was very cold. An abnormal kind of cold, distinctly different from other iron objects. Pay attention to this feeling. You'll recognize it immediately when you find a ghost artifact in a dungeon later. Bai Xiaoxiao said. Ning Shui pondered for a moment, then suddenly spoke. "I have a question. I wonder if Sister Bai could help me answer it?" Bai Xiaoxiao nodded. "Go ahead." Ning Shui lowered his head, staring intently at the blood-stained dagger in Bai Xiaoxiao's hand, and said, "I think ghost artifacts must be items related to important characters in the world behind the Crimson Door. For example, the jade pendant I obtained in the first Crimson Door was something the little girl's mother begged to use to suppress the ghost. Or like the ancient book of the spirit medium I obtained in the second Crimson Door, and the red scissors taken from the malevolent ghost in this Crimson Door. I feel there's a commonality among these 3 items, so I wanted to confirm with you whether my speculation is correct." Bai Xiaoxiao blinked, her expression thoughtful. "I haven't paid much attention to this point, but if you say so, it seems correct. The ghost artifacts I've obtained are also related to important characters in the Crimson Door." At this point, Bai Xiaoxiao's voice suddenly trailed off. That's right. Earlier, their attention had been drawn by the malevolent ghost in the old house, causing Bai Xiaoxiao to completely overlook this detail. If the ghost artifact after each Crimson Door is related to important characters, then the dagger in her hand, who is it related to? Bai Xiaoxiao grew increasingly uneasy the more she thought about it. Goosebumps even rose on the back of her neck. This dagger, why was it stained with blood? Whose blood was it? Who had used this dagger? Could there be another vengeful spirit in the old house? All these questions, along with the numb, tingling sensation on her scalp, flooded her mind simultaneously. This is just a speculation for now. No need to worry too much. Let's be careful and focus on finding the puzzle piece first. Ning Shui's words snapped Bai Xiaoxiao back to her senses. She nodded slightly. The afternoon passed by swiftly. By the time dusk fell and night approached, they had practically turned the old house inside out, searching every nook and cranny, yet they hadn't found a single trace of any puzzle piece. The 4 of them returned to the canvas tent, their expressions somewhat dejected, but Ning Shui quickly adjusted her mood. "Damn it! Where could that puzzle piece be? Damn it! We've already ransacked the entire old house. There's really nowhere left to hide it. I even went down the dry well. Nothing." Feng slapped at a mosquito bite on his leg, grumbling a few words to vent his disappointment. Ning Shui didn't dwell too much on the puzzle piece issue. Instead, she asked Jun and Feng, "This afternoon, while you 2 were searching for the puzzle piece, did you encounter anything strange in the old house?" Hearing Ning Shui's question, both of them were taken aback. Then they shook their heads. Jun remained as silent as ever, not speaking unless necessary, while Feng nodded thoughtfully for a moment before saying, Since Brother Shui asked, there is one thing that felt off. The other three immediately focused their attention on him. What was strange? Feng Yu felt a bit awkward under the stares of the three. He shivered slightly and forced a smile. "Don't look at me like that. I just felt something wasn't right, intuitively." He gestured animatedly, trying to explain that this unease was just his subjective feeling. "It's fine, just speak freely. We're all on the same side here." Hearing Ning Shui's reassurance, Feng Yu cleared his throat. "I'm just saying, don't take it too seriously, everyone. This afternoon, while searching the old house with Brother Jun, I kept feeling like something was watching me." At this point, Feng Yu's gaze grew more serious. "It's that kind of feeling that makes your whole body tremble, you know? It only eased up a little when I was inside a room. But whenever I went outside, to places where rain could fall, I could feel that gaze staring at me." After he finished speaking, the expressions of the other three became somewhat peculiar. Seeing their faces, Feng Yu swallowed hard and couldn't help but ask, Do you all feel it too?" Ning Shui shook her head. "I didn't have that feeling, but I think your feeling is probably not wrong. It's possible that at that time in the old house, something really was watching you." Hearing this, the hair on Feng Yu's body immediately stood on end. "Oh God, Brother Chu Shui, don't scare me like that. That's not how you prank someone. The ghost in this crimson door is already dead. What else could be staring at us?" At this moment, the ever-silent Meng Jun also spoke up. "I had that feeling too. Moreover, it's very clear. At first I thought it was a person, so I deliberately led Feng Yu around the 3 small courtyards of the ancient house a few times, but didn't discover any traces of anyone following us. And that feeling of being watched only disappeared when we entered the room." Ning Shui frowned. "What about after leaving the ancient house?" Meng Jin said, "After leaving the ancient house, it was gone." After he finished speaking, the 4 fell into silence. A few minutes passed, and Feng Yu couldn't help but ask, "So should we still go into the ancient house tomorrow to look for the puzzle piece?" Ning Shui shook her head. "I suggest we clearly explain the current situation to everyone tomorrow morning, so they can quickly finish filming the script. I have a very uneasy premonition, always feeling like something is about to happen. Now we already have 2 ghost artifacts, which can be considered a big win. Completing the Crimson Door's mission and returning alive is what truly matters." The other 3 nodded. Their thoughts at this moment were the same as Ning Shui's. Finish the mission quickly and get out of here. That ancient house is truly a bit sinister. Knowing when enough is the right choice. The night passed, the rain still falling incessantly. Early the next morning, Ning Shui and the others gathered all the survivors and explained the current situation to them. Everyone listened with half belief, half doubt, but Ning Shui and the others proactively began filming according to the script. After filming a few scenes where people were supposed to die but nothing happened, and the eyeless man with the red scissors didn't reappear, everyone finally trusted Ning Shui and the others. Although they still harbored some calculations in their hearts, thinking about the ghost artifacts and puzzle pieces in this crimson door, filming the movie came first. After all, the main mission was related to the life and death of all of them. Soon, it was time for the final scene. This scene was very simple. The female lead, Yan Fei Fei, flees to a courtyard with a large locust tree. She looks up and sees something terrifying on the locust tree staring at her, screams and faints. Then, the male lead appears, carries her out of the ancient house, and the entire film is considered finished. Everyone was a bit anxious, because once this scene was filmed, the old broken bus would come to pick them up and take them back to the ghost dwelling. Then, they would have plenty of time to search for puzzle pieces here. Even if they encountered danger, they could quickly hide on the bus. As long as one person hadn't boarded the bus, it wouldn't start until the hidden mission's time limit ended. The actors arrived at the courtyard. The role of the female lead, Yan Fei Fei, was still played by Cheng Xin. The cameraman had already taken his position in the courtyard early on, and the male lead was also ready in another room. When filming began, Cheng Xin ran in fear from the opposite arched gate, looking back 3 times as she ran, as if something terrifying was chasing her. She ran under the large locust tree, leaning on her knees, panting heavily. Not long after catching her breath, she suddenly seemed to discover something, slowly raising her head as if seeing something very frightening. Chengxin let out a scream and then she fainted. At that moment, the cameraman waved to the male lead in the distant room. He immediately ran out, sprinting toward Chengxin, scooped her up in a princess carry, and dashed toward the entrance of the ancient house. The cameraman followed closely behind with the camera, and together they ran out of the ancient house. Once outside, the cameraman pressed the stop button, raised both hands high, and shouted, "Okay, it's a wrap!" Everyone excitedly ran to the computer set up on the open ground to review the footage they had just shot. But they had only been watching for a short while when a strange cry from a man came from behind them. "Chengxin? Chengxin?" Everyone curiously turned around and saw it was the male lead from the film. He had placed Chengxin on the ground, but she didn't stand up. Instead, she slumped limply into his arms like a pile of mud. Seeing this, everyone sensed something was wrong and hurried over to check. They shook Chengxin's body, and after a moment, she slowly regained consciousness. Her eyes were dazed for a second, then suddenly filled with extreme terror as she began thrashing violently. "There's a ghost! There's a ghost!" Chengxin tightly grabbed someone's arm, she didn't even know whose, with such force that she left red marks on their skin. The person whose arm was grabbed yanked it back forcefully, looked at the injury and cursed. "Damn it, Chengxin, have you gone crazy? What's wrong with you?" "The ghost died long ago. Where would a ghost come from now? Did filming make you dizzy?" Chengxin trembled violently, even unable to stand steadily. There really is. I saw them. Right on the old locust tree in the courtyard of the ancient house, there were 4 decomposing corpses hanging. They were even smiling at me." As soon as Chengxin finished speaking, everyone felt a chill run down their spines. 4 corpses hanging from the large locust tree in the ancient house courtyard? "Believe me, please believe me." She was agitated. Seeing the half-believing, half-doubting expressions on everyone's faces, Chengxin felt her heart was about to leap out of her throat. Those 4 corpses hanging from that old locust tree, they must be ghosts. Seeing Chengxin so agitated, everyone knew she wasn't joking. So there really were still ghosts inside the ancient house, and 4 of them at that? "Don't be afraid, we've completed the main task. The bus will come to pick us up soon. At that point, no matter how many ghosts there are, it won't matter." Someone comforted Chengxin and also comforted themselves. The drizzle overhead no longer soaked everyone's clothes and hair, but the chill within it hadn't lessened at all. Some couldn't help but glance toward the main gate of the ancient house. They were afraid something terrifying might suddenly emerge from that darkness. Everyone gathered on the open ground, waiting for about half an hour, but the mist and the bus still hadn't appeared. Quite a few people were starting to worry. Hadn't they completed the task? Why hadn't the bus come to pick them up yet? Suspicion shrouded everyone's hearts. The drizzle in the sky began to fall a little heavier, and the air gradually turned colder. By now, the rain was enough to soak their clothes. Everyone couldn't continue waiting outside and had no choice but to duck into the tent. Damn it, what's going on? Why hasn't that damn bus arrived yet? Geng Hu, the man who came with Jun Tiao Tiao, was hiding in the tent and grumbling. Except for the first time entering the Crimson Door, every subsequent time someone else had led him through. He was very wealthy in real life and had spent a lot of money seeking help on the Mistworld's website. Because they say money can make ghosts turn millstones. Although real life isn't as dangerous as the Mistworld, poverty can also drive people mad. Jun Tiao Tiao was someone who desperately needed money. At this moment, she sat waiting at the tent entrance, glancing both at Ning Chu Shui and the others and at the old house. She too was surprised by this strange situation. Theoretically, we've completed the mission. Jun Tiao Tiao frowned. Could there be something wrong with Bai Xiao Xiao's side? Thinking this, Jun Tiao Tiao turned back to give Geng Hu a few instructions, then walked straight into the rain, heading toward Ning Chu Shui and the others' tent. As soon as she pushed aside the tent flap and stepped inside, Jun Tiao Tiao immediately sensed a somewhat stifling atmosphere among the 4. A bad premonition rose in her heart. "What's going on?" Jun Tiao Tiao asked. The four looked at her, no one speaking. After a long silence, Bai Xiao finally spoke up. We're not too sure either. Following your reminder, we found the true form of the scissor-wielding ghost and killed it. You saw it in the footage too. It didn't appear anymore. But now the filming is finished. Theoretically, we've completed the mission, so why hasn't the bus come to pick us up yet? Hearing this, Jun Tiao carefully scrutinized the expressions on the four faces. Soon she was disappointed. Their expressions were very heavy, not feigned at all, meaning the difficult situation they were facing wasn't something they had orchestrated. Has the bus ever been late before? Feng Yu asked gloomily. Bai Xiao, Meng Jun, Ning Chu Shui, even Jun Tiao all shook their heads. In all the Crimson Doors they had experienced before, the bus had never been late. As long as the main mission is completed, no matter where, the bus will appear on time, Bai Xiao said. So now that the bus hasn't appeared, it means our main mission still isn't finished? Probably. But isn't our main mission to help director Zheng Chao film the movie? Now both the old script and the new script content have been filmed. The mission should be complete. Listening to everyone talk, Jun Tiao suddenly asked, "What new script?" Bai Xiao explained to her about the old and new scripts, and also told her about Ning Chu Shui's earlier speculations. They had already realized something was wrong. No need to hide it anymore. After all, they now had 2 ghost artifacts, which could be considered a big win. But the prerequisite was that they could return alive. If both the old and new scripts have been filmed and the mission still isn't over, could there be a 3rd script? Jun Tiao immediately thought of Ning Chu Shui's dual script hypothesis. Impossible. Even if Chu Shui's speculation is true, a 3rd script would have to be. In the hands of Zheng Chao's friend, Zheng Chao definitely didn't know the content of the 3rd script, otherwise he wouldn't have died in the old house. Therefore, even if there really is a 3rd script, it has nothing to do with Zheng Chao. Everyone fell into silence. If the task on the Crimson Door had been, help the director finish shooting this horror movie, then a 3rd script would have been very likely, because the task didn't specify which director. However, the task description on the Crimson Door was very clear. It specifically named Zheng Chao. In theory, Zheng Chao only had 2 scripts, and they had already finished shooting the content of both, but the task still wasn't complete. Everything seemed to have reached a dead end. The rain outside the tent grew heavier and heavier. Raindrops pattered on the tent, creating a pitter-patter sound. Ning Chu Shui lifted the tent flap, his gaze passing through Jun Tiao at the entrance, looking towards the old house. This look caused his expression to change. Almost immediately, he stood up. Seeing his expression was off, everyone also immediately looked towards the old house. Even through the dense curtain of rain, the 4 of them could clearly see 4 terrifying black shadows standing in a row in front of the old house's door. They were about 100 meters apart. But with just a glance, they could clearly feel the chilling aura emanating from them. Damn it! So there really are vengeful spirits in the old house, and 4 of them at that? Fuck, the ones staring at us before, weren't they them? Feng Yu recalled yesterday afternoon when they were searching for the puzzle piece in the old house. They constantly had the feeling of being watched. At first, he thought it was his own illusion, but now, thinking that the ones staring at him back then were 4 decomposing corpses hanging from the old locust tree, Feng Yu felt his legs go weak. Not good, they're coming! Meng Jun suddenly spoke up, his voice serious and tense. In the distant curtain of rain, those 4 terrifying black shadows were flying straight towards the clearing where everyone was. The 4 shadows flew over at an extremely fast speed, even faster than when they were running at full speed. And in the heavy rain, they didn't stumble at all. Inside the tent, everyone almost immediately took out their protective ghost artifacts. Jun Tiao also immediately returned to her own tent. There was still a client of hers there, a 500,000 yuan deal. Wait, those 4 ghosts aren't heading towards us. Ning Chu Shui frowned, realizing that the 4 shadows in the rain curtain opposite, while also heading towards the clearing, weren't heading towards this tent, but were slightly off towards the mountain path. What are they trying to do? Go down the mountain? The four people in the tent carefully observed those four shadows. They quickly reached the entrance of the mountain path. Then, one shadow stayed there, and the remaining three turned around, flying straight towards the tent on this clearing. Damn it! So they're blocking our way down the mountain, trying to catch the turtle in the jar. Feng Yu cried out. Ningqiu Shui didn't hesitate, immediately pushing open the tent flap. Run! He shouted loudly. Then he took the lead, running toward the distant, gloomy old house. At this moment, they no longer cared about the gloom and darkness inside the old house. Staying on the open ground meant certain death. Though they hadn't run far, terrified and agonized screams erupted from behind. Ah! There's a ghost! Save me! Close the curtain quick. Fortunately, with many people behind them acting as shields, the three ghosts didn't immediately target Ningqiu Shui and the others. However, just as the four of them stepped through the main gate of the old house, they suddenly felt a chilling aura from behind. Ningqiu Shui turned his head. He saw a shadow suddenly turn back, staring at them, then abandon its nearly dead prey and chase after them. Run! One of the ghosts is chasing us! In the heavy rain, the four split into two groups again, fleeing in different directions. At a time like this, being alone was too dangerous, but four people together made too big a target. Ningqiu Shui and Bai Xiao ran toward the east wing of the old house. Thanks to their thorough search of the place earlier, the four were quite familiar with the layout and some relatively hidden spots. Quickly, Ningqiu Shui and Bai Xiao reached a room that seemed to have once been inhabited by a woman, hiding inside a wardrobe in the most secluded corner. There were no clothes inside, only dust and the smell of damp, moldy wood. The wardrobe wasn't small, just enough for two people to hide. Too careless. In the darkness, Bai Xiao seemed to be muttering to herself. Her hand touched the blood-stained dagger they had found earlier. If I'm not mistaken, those four corpses were killed with this dagger while they were still alive. And the one who killed them wasn't a ghost, but a person. This also explains why, after their deaths, the bloodstains and bodies didn't disappear. But if that's the case, why didn't we before? In the silent darkness, Ningqiu Shui's voice rang out. It seems our earlier speculation was correct. Though there are still some logical gaps, the conclusion is that director Zheng Chao must have a third script. Only that can explain why the main mission of the Crimson Door hasn't ended after we finished filming the first two scripts. Bai Xiao was somewhat doubtful, but earlier we searched for director Zheng Chao's belongings. There were only two scripts there, no third one. If a third script exists, where is it now? Initially, squeezed into this small wardrobe with Ningqiu Shui, Bai Xiao felt a bit embarrassed. After all, both their clothes were soaked by the rain, and sticking together gave an indescribable feeling. But now, the oppressive sense of death made her brush aside those minor flutters in her heart. The third script definitely isn't too far from us. If we can't get that script, we'll all die. There are four ghosts outside. We can't hide forever. Sooner or later, they'll find us. As more and more people die, the pressure on the survivors will multiply. Think carefully. We must have missed some very important information. As soon as the words left his mouth, Ningqiu Shui suddenly felt a cold hand clamp over his lips. Ningqiu Shui, who had been immersed in searching for the truth, immediately stopped his train of thought. Both the wardrobe and the room door were closed, and those ghosts were all floating in the air, moving without a sound. Although he didn't know what Bai Xiao had discovered, Ningqiu Shui still trusted her. He knew this woman, who had experienced the Crimson Door multiple times, was more astute than she appeared. Sure enough, after just a few short breaths, the door to the outer room was pushed open. Creak! A hair-raising sound echoed. Perhaps it was the wind outside, or perhaps something that came with the wind and rain, but the two people huddled in the wardrobe felt an inexplicable chill. Ningqiu Shui felt Bai Xiao's hand covering his mouth and nose was a bit too tight, making it hard to breathe, so he slowly grasped her hand and pulled it down. Neither made a sound. Whether from tension or not, Ningqiu Shui's grip on Bai Xiao's hand was slightly too strong, and her palm was also damp with sweat. Although they couldn't see anything, with only the sound of rain falling outside echoing in the room, both vaguely felt something lingering in the room, searching. Ning Shui and Bai Xiao even held their breath. At this moment, they were even somewhat grateful for the rain outside, because the sound of the rain masked the pounding of their hearts. Time passed minute by minute in the darkness. Ning Shui and Bai Xiao felt the chill on their bodies growing heavier, as if something invisible was blowing into their ears. This sensation continuously stimulated them, but the two still did not move. They absolutely would not actively open the wardrobe door unless absolutely necessary. Just as the creeping sensation was about to erupt, light, hurried footsteps sounded outside the room door again. These footsteps were neither loud nor soft, as if someone was fleeing in panic. It was precisely these footsteps that drew the attention of the thing outside, causing the creeping sensation felt by the two to lessen by more than half. After waiting silently for about 3 minutes, the chilling sensation on their bodies completely disappeared. Bai Xiao carefully cracked open the wardrobe door and peered out. The room was empty, with nothing there, only large puddles of stagnant water on the floor. "It's gone," Bai Xiao whispered. Hearing this, Ning Shui let go of her hand and also carefully opened the wardrobe door. The two stepped out, confirming there was nothing in the room before letting out a slight sigh of relief. Ning Shui turned to look at Bai Xiao, who was gently rubbing the hand he had just gripped tightly, and said, "Sorry, I was a bit tense just now." Bai Xiao walked to his side, glanced at him sideways, and teased, "It's fine. I'm not some delicate princess. But next time you hold a girl's hand, don't use so much force. Not every girl can handle it." With that, Bai Xiao shook her small, now reddened hand, then walked to the entrance door and carefully bolted it shut. The situation outside is unknown, and with the heavy rain, venturing out recklessly is definitely not a good choice. After locking the door, Bai Xiao turned back and saw Ning Shui squatting on the ground, examining the puddles of stagnant water. Her gaze flickered slightly, but she didn't interrupt his train of thought. A few minutes later, Ning Shui suddenly muttered to himself, "So the third script is there." Hearing this, Bai Xiao's heart stirred slightly. "Where?" Ning Shui looked up, his gaze sharp with a flickering light within. "In Zheng Chao's hands." Hearing Ning Shui's words, Bai Xiao was stunned. "Zheng Chao? Didn't he already die?" Ning Shui's voice was steady and firm. "Exactly. If Zheng Chao is dead, then there's an inconsistency in our previous deduction. That is, the third script should logically be in the hands of Zheng Chao's friend, and Zheng Chao himself was just an actor in his friend's script, a sacrificial pawn. But have you considered one possibility, that Zheng Chao might not have had a friend at all, and the director Zheng Chao who died wasn't the real Zheng Chao?" Hearing this, even the always sharp Bai Xiao felt as if struck by lightning. The director Zheng Chao who died on the first night wasn't Zheng Chao. How did you come up with this?" Ning Shui pointed at the puddles of stagnant water on the ground. "See these puddles? Normal ghosts wouldn't get wet from the rain, at least not within this crimson door, unless their true bodies are out in the rain. But they didn't go looking for their true bodies. Instead, they came straight for us. This indicates they aren't afraid of the rain at all." And another behavioral detail from earlier. These 4 ghosts, after leaving the old house, didn't come to kill us first. Instead, they blocked our path down the mountain. Rather than saying they were catching turtles in a jar, it's more like their true bodies are currently on the mountain road in the rain. They blocked the intersection because they were afraid we'd go down the mountain and discover their true bodies. Based on the previous deduction about the scissor-wielding ghost, a ghost's true body is very likely an item that shouldn't be discarded carelessly. Therefore, it's highly probable that someone is carrying that item. At this point, Ning Shui asked a question that sent a chill down Bai Xiao's spine. "So, who is still down the mountain right now?" Bai Xiao's lips moved slightly. "The cameraman, Wang Peng." Ning Shui nodded lightly. "Exactly. Or in other words, the real Zheng Chao." Bai Xiao was completely shocked by Ning Shui's line of reasoning. All the previous suspicious points were now connected. "Do you remember how we confirmed director Zheng Chao and cameraman Wang Peng?" Ning Shui's voice, as if bewitching, awakened Bai Xiao's memory, making her recall many details. It was they themselves who said, "We are the actors he hired. In theory, we should know them, at least recognize the director." But during our initial gathering, that fat guy even introduced himself, saying he was Director Zheng Chao. This shows we didn't know each other. He deliberately told us earlier. Those two have been putting on an act for us from the very beginning. Ning Chu Shui nodded. Exactly, similar to the second Crimson Door, but the second Crimson Door was a wordplay game, easier to detect. Moreover, the death of fake Zheng Chao was likely also staged. If he had known he would die, he definitely wouldn't have come here. As for the identity of cameraman Wang Peng, it's even harder to arouse suspicion. After all, people tend to be influenced by first impressions, subconsciously assuming the person standing next to the camera is the cameraman. He didn't even need to speak. From the moment we saw him, he was already labeled cameraman. I was fooled, and I believe any ordinary person would be fooled too. That director Zheng Chao is someone very skilled at using cinematic language and manipulating people's hearts, also someone who will stop at nothing to film, a madman. Every detail at this moment had been pieced together. Bai Xiao couldn't control the slight trembling in her limbs. Before stepping into this Crimson Door, she had never imagined there would be such a massive conspiracy behind it. From beginning to end, the most terrifying thing wasn't the ghosts, but director Zheng Chao, who had been toying with all of them in the palm of his hand. Of course, the clue Jun Tiao gave us is also very important. Ning Chu Shui's gaze sharpened. Intelligence often binds itself, and so do ghosts. We always think the latter part is the focus, neglecting the former, but in reality, both are the focus. Zheng Chao controlled all our thoughts with a simple sentence. I am Director Zheng Chao, but he never expected that very sentence would expose him. The real Zheng Chao is probably on the mountain road right now, somehow filming most of our actions on the mountain. Perhaps this is the real reason why Meng Jun and Feng Yu felt watched, not because of the 4 corpses on the old locust tree, because at that time, these 4 ghosts were all sealed. Without the scissor-wielding ghost causing interference, that feeling of being secretly watched would become very clear. After speaking, Ning Chu Shui looked at the heavy rain outside the door. We really have to thank this rain. It gave us a crucial clue. Perhaps this is the mercy of the Crimson Door? Bai Xiao stepped beside Ning Chu Shui, looking with him at the heavy rain outside the door, her eyes bright. You plan to charge out? Ning Chu Shui said, it's the only way out. Only by finding and destroying the true forms of these 4 ghosts can we survive. Your idea isn't wrong, but you have to be mentally prepared. There are 3 ghosts in the ancient house searching for us, not to mention whether we can safely avoid their investigation. Even if we can escape, there's still another ghost guarding us at the mountain fork. This time going down the mountain, if we guess wrong, it means... Bai Xiao didn't finish her sentence, but Ning Chu Shui understood her meaning. The threat of death was ever present, a blade perpetually pressed against their necks. Though they both possessed ghost artifacts, the use of such artifacts was limited. Apart from investigative ghost artifacts, other types, defensive, binding, or even offensive, could only be used a maximum of 3 times within a single Crimson Door world. No matter how many ghost artifacts one brought into the Crimson Door, they only had 3 chances to activate them. Moreover, the ghost-suppressing effect of ordinary ghost artifacts was extremely limited, only capable of protecting one's life at critical moments. Attempting to use a ghost artifact to directly confront a real ghost was nothing short of seeking death. Bai Xiao told Ning Chu Shui this not to dissuade him. She only wanted Ning Chu Shui to mentally prepare for the possibility of dying at any moment. Things had developed to this point, and the ghost's binding force was no longer as strong. Do you remember the path we took earlier? Yesterday evening, when we left along that path, neither of us felt any sense of being watched. I think it's because there were no eyes of Zheng Chao on that route. Let's leave using that path. Bai Xiao gave a slight nod. At this point, they had no choice but to gamble once. Staying here any longer, being found by the ghost, was only a matter of time. Carefully, they pulled open a crack in the door. Torrential rain poured down. The rain showed no sign of stopping, The raindrops fell like needles, cold and piercing, striking the body with a bone-piercing chill. Outside, it was pitch dark and eerily quiet. Only an occasional light breeze rustled the leaves, making one feel as if something was watching from the shadows. The two cautiously followed the path from their memory. Whether it was Ningqiu Shui or Bai Xiao, both had strong fortitude, but at this moment, under the rain, they couldn't help but feel tense. Just the thought of three unpredictable ghosts that could appear in any corner of the mansion made their hearts pound wildly. They carefully traced the path from memory, occasionally hearing faint, distant screams echoing through the air. These agonized cries were almost completely drowned out by the heavy rain, unable to travel too far. And each time a scream was heard, it meant at least one more person had been found and killed by a ghost. Only now did Ningqiu Shui truly grasp the value of the jade pendant he had obtained from the first crimson door. In this game of blindfolded hide-and-seek, having a ghost artifact that could detect nearby ghosts was practically like activating a hack. Unfortunately, his jade pendant had completely shattered. Reality was always drenched in blood. The two had just passed through two small courtyards when trouble arose. Not far away, a staggering shadow spotted them. After a momentary pause, the shadow seemed to go mad, charging toward them. Ningqiu Shui and Bai Xiao immediately turned and fled, but they hadn't expected the person behind them, unable to catch up, to scream loudly, "Save me! I'm Chengxin! Save me!" "I'm not a ghost." A woman's voice was usually higher pitched than a man's, especially when terrified, making the scream even more piercing. This kind of high-frequency sound had strong penetrating power, carrying farther through the rain, compared to the screams of some grown men. Hearing Chengxin's scream from behind, Ningqiu Shui and Bai Xiao not only didn't stop but ran even faster. Neither of them looked back. They knew that encountering people at this moment might be even more troublesome than encountering ghosts. After all, those four ghosts were all silent. They wouldn't make a ruckus. But people would. Chengxin's actions clearly showed that she saw the two weren't saving her, so she decided to drag both of them down with her. But luckily, her leg was injured, and in her panicked escape, she stepped on something slippery, falling face first into a puddle of rainwater, so the figures of the two quickly disappeared from Chengxin's sight. She desperately watched Ningqiu Shui and Bai Xiao's figures vanish at the end of the narrow path, one hand clutching her leg where the flesh was torn, collapsing and crying, "Please save me. Someone save me. I don't want to die. I don't want to die." She cried for a while, then suddenly stopped as if realizing something. Chengxin slowly turned her head, looking behind her. The dark figure flying towards her in the rain made her body go cold. Her earlier cries for help had helped that dark figure pinpoint her location. Now the two people ahead couldn't be caught, but the terrifying, fierce ghost chasing her had arrived. "No, no," Chengxin screamed in horror, but the dark figure quickly caught up to her. A pale, cold hand grabbed her hair, and amidst Chengxin's miserable screams, dragged her into a dark room. With the door tightly shut, all sounds from Chengxin disappeared. After she was dragged into the room by the ghost, two shadowy figures stealthily and quickly emerged from the arched gate on the right. They hurriedly crossed this courtyard, running towards the main gate of the ancient house. Passing through a dilapidated alley paved with old blue stones, Ningqiu Shui looked at the puddle on the ground and suddenly frowned, saying, "There's blood." Bai Xiao bent down to check. Indeed. Although it was currently raining heavily inside the ancient house, because the accumulated water couldn't drain immediately, when someone bled heavily, it would leave traces on the ground. "Did someone run out of the ancient house before us?" Bai Xiao muttered. They continued running towards the main gate of the ancient house, but when they saw the large gate in the distance, they were surprised to see a dark figure lingering there. "The main gate is blocked. We can't go that way." Seeing this, the two immediately wanted to turn back. However, as soon as they turned back into the blue stone paved alley, they saw another dark figure at the end of the alley quickly flying towards them. This is bad. Although this dark figure didn't seem to have noticed them yet, with two fierce ghosts now on one path, they had nowhere left to run. They hurriedly left the alley, returning near the gate of the ancient house. the two took out their ghost artifacts. Though they didn't speak, they both sensed each other's determination to gamble once. At this moment, from a small, nearly abandoned and crumbling room, a woman's voice rang out. "Over here!" The two looked towards the voice and saw a wooden plank below being gently pushed open. A pair of familiar eyes appeared before them. The owner of these eyes was Jun Tiao Tiao. Seeing this, the two hurriedly ran towards her. Jun Tiao Tiao lifted a wooden plank, revealing a cellar. The two jumped down, and Jun Tiao Tiao immediately placed the plank back in its original position. The cellar was filled with a thick, musty odor, and sticky mud was everywhere, making it extremely uncomfortable. However, the space here was relatively spacious. The light in the cellar was very dim, almost impossible to see anything. But because the three were close together, Ning Chu Shui and Bai Xiaoxiao could still see that one of Jun Tiao Tiao's arms had been severed. Not just a broken bone, but completely severed flesh and skin. "What happened to your arm?" Ning Chu Shui's voice was almost a whisper. Lifting her severed arm, a trace of killing intent flashed in Jun Tiao Tiao's eyes. She gritted her teeth and said, "It's all because of that damned man. Just now, we were found by a ghost. I gave him a ghost artifact for protection, and used another ghost artifact to seal that ghost for 5 seconds. We should have been able to escape together. But that bastard Geng Hu, afraid he couldn't get away, actually kicked me into the room and then closed the door." At this point, the killing intent in Jun Tiao Tiao's eyes was almost impossible to conceal. Both of them could imagine the perilous scene at that moment. Ning Chu Shui and Bai Xiaoxiao secretly admired that Jun Tiao Tiao could escape from such a situation. "Did you revoke the authority of the ghost artifact you lent him?" Bai Xiaoxiao asked. Within the Crimson Door, the authority to lend a ghost artifact to others can be revoked. Jun Tiao Tiao took a deep breath and said, "No." "Why?" "I want him to live." Jun Tiao Tiao didn't explain the reason to the two, and they didn't ask further. After all, they weren't familiar, and this was her private matter. Soon, they felt a chilling air seeping down from the cracks above their heads. The three hiding in the cellar all knew that the ghost was now lurking somewhere around them. In the dark and damp environment, all three were somewhat tense. If there were footsteps from above, they might feel a bit more at ease, as they could judge whether the ghost had discovered them through the sound of footsteps. But these 4 ghosts made no sound at all. They were all floating. The three held their breath and waited below for a long time, until a miserable scream rang out not far away. About 2 minutes after that scream, Ning Chu Shui carefully climbed the steps to the wooden plank, slowly pushed open a crack, and looked outside. "It's gone," Ning Chu Shui said to the 2 girls. The 2 girls breathed a sigh of relief. "What about you two? Why did you come here?" Only after the ghost left did Jun Tiao Tiao dare to speak up and ask the two, "We have to go down the mountain." Bai Xiaoxiao's words stunned Jun Tiao Tiao. "Down the mountain?" At this point, the two no longer hid anything and told Jun Tiao Tiao all their discoveries and speculations. After listening, her eyes held both shock and terror. "Do you want to come with us?" Bai Xiaoxiao asked. Jun Tiao Tiao narrowed her eyes. "In this Crimson Door, I can only use the ghost artifact once. If you two guess wrong..." Before she could finish, Bai Xiaoxiao cut her off. "If we guess wrong, we'll die too." Jun Tiao stared straight at the two of them, remained silent for a long moment, then nodded slightly. "All right, I'll go with you. But right now, there's a ghost guarding the main gate of the old house. We can't go straight through there. Even if we could use the ghost artifact to temporarily bind it, that time wouldn't be enough for us to run down the mountain. Moreover, there's another ghost at the mountain path exit." The expressions of all three were extremely serious. Currently, the entire old house was completely sealed off. To leave, they had to find a separate path. "I know a way. I discovered it by chance before. But first, we need a shovel." Hearing they needed to get a shovel, Ning Chu Shui and Bai Xiaoxiao were both stunned. "What? Do we have to dig that path ourselves?" Jun Tiao Tiao nodded slightly. "Do you two remember the earthen wall on the east side of the house?" Of course, they remembered that earthen wall. On the first day, the person who called himself Zheng Chao's stunt double was killed by the scissor-wielding ghost on that very wall. Before, I happened to see a rat hole in that earthen wall. This wall is completely built from mud, with no bricks or stones inside. After being drenched by heavy rain, it must be very damp. As long as we have a tool, we can quickly dig a hole. Jun Tiao Tiao raised her hand. Ning Chu Shui thought for a moment, then said, "There's a coal tong in the kitchen that we can use, and the kitchen isn't too far from here." Pausing briefly, Ning Chu Shui said to the two girls, "Going together makes the target too big. You two stay here to support me. If all goes well, I'll be back within about 5 minutes." Bai Xiaoxiao frowned but said nothing. "Be careful on the way," she cautioned. Ning Chu Shui nodded, propped up the wooden plank, and quickly disappeared into the curtain of rain. These 5 minutes passed with excruciating slowness. Whether Ning Chu Shui could successfully bring back the coal tong was a matter of life and death for them. The brief 5 minutes felt like an entire year. Fortunately, it wasn't long before the two girls heard hurried footsteps coming from the wooden plank above. Then, someone gently knocked on the plank. "Come out quickly. There are no ghosts outside. Let's take this chance to move fast." The two girls exchanged a glance, cautiously holding their ghost artifacts, and gently pushed the wooden plank up. Seeing Ning Chu Shui standing outside holding the coal tongue, they finally breathed a sigh of relief. Carefully making their way to the earthen wall, Bai Xiaoxiao and Jun Tiao Tiao split up to keep watch in two directions, while Ning Chu Shui grabbed the coal tongue and frantically dug at the earthen wall. Fortunately, there were still many survivors, and the house was relatively large. For the three of them in this secluded spot, encountering a ghost wouldn't be that easy. Ning Chu Shui's strength surpassed that of an ordinary person. If a normal person were to use coal tongues to dig through this nearly half-meter thick earthen wall, it wouldn't be an easy task. They couldn't climb directly over the wall. Standing too high would attract the ghosts. At the main gate discovered. Just about 10 minutes later, Ning Chu Shui gasped as he told the two girls, "It's Doug!" Bai Xiaoxiao and Jun Tiao. Tiao looked slightly surprised at Ning Chu Shui, drenched in sweat, seemingly not expecting this slender frame to conceal such great strength. "Next, there's still one problem," Ning Chu Shui panted. "This place and the main gate of the old house form a blind spot, enough for us to run at least half the distance before the ghost on the other side spots us. But no matter what, when we run close to the mountain path exit, we'll be discovered by both ghosts simultaneously. At that time, we'll still face the problem of being caught between them. To safely pass the fork, at least one person must stay behind, at the right moment, to attract the attention of the ghost guarding the exit." After Ning Chu Shui finished speaking, both girls fell silent. Staying in the mansion to attract the ghost at the main gate definitely involved great risk. If unlucky, while fleeing inside the mansion, they encountered another patrolling ghost, death was almost certain. They weren't immortals, just ordinary people. No matter how many crimson doors they had experienced, facing death, it was hard not to be afraid. After a long silence, Bai Xiaoxiao said, "How about?" Before she could finish, Jun Tiao Tiao quickly spoke up. "Let me." Both looked at her in surprise. Jun Tiao Tiao seemed slightly flustered under their gaze. "Don't look at me like that. I'm not the type to sacrifice myself for the group. It's just that there's no better choice. I've lost too much blood, can't run fast. If chased by a ghost across open ground, death is almost certain. On the contrary, inside this old house, I can still use the terrain to struggle with them. I saved your lives, and I also hope you won't let me down." Ning Chu Shui and Bai Xiaoxiao exchanged a glance, nodding slightly. Jun Tiao Tiao truly lived up to being a survivor from the sixth door. Her will to survive was simply too strong. She knew what she should persist in, what she should give up, what she should cooperate with, and could make accurate judgments about her current situation. "All right, be careful." Jun Tiao Tiao had saved them earlier, so they were grateful to her. Bai Xiaoxiao was the first to crawl out of the hole. Just as Ning Chu Shui was also preparing to crawl out, he heard Jun Tiao Tiao's voice from behind. "Hey!" Ning Shui turned back. "What is it?" Jun Tiao Tiao seemed hesitant. The rain had matted her hair into clumps, tangled on her face, making her look utterly wretched. "Do me a favor. If I die in the end, please take this to room 604, building 6, Kunhua Hospital, and give it to someone named Jun Lu Yuan." With that, she took off the bracelet of beads from her wrist and handed it to Ningqiu Shui. Ningqiu Shui looked at the bracelet in his hand, silent for a moment, then nodded lightly. "All right, but I still hope, in the end, I can return this to you." Hearing this, Jun Tiao Tiao gave a faint smile. "Thank you." After bidding farewell, Ningqiu Shui slipped into the tunnel. They carefully used the tents in the clearing to create blind spots, hoping to remain undetected by the ghost guarding the mountain path entrance for as long as possible. The closer they got, the more tense they both became. The distance from here to the ancient mansion's main gate offered almost no cover. If they continued forward, the ghost guarding the mansion's main gate would spot them first. "Wait 2 more minutes," Ning Shui said. He wasn't sure if Jun Tiao Tiao had successfully drawn the main gate ghost's attention yet. After a brief wait, the two of them made a desperate dash toward the mountain path entrance. Bai Xiao Xiao handed Ningqiu Shui a wooden comb. This was a very precious ghost artifact, with a powerful effect. It could make the person combed with it immune to being targeted by ghosts for 1 minute. "I'll help you distract that ghost later. My stamina is good, and I have other ghost artifacts on me. It won't be able to lock onto you, so you can head straight down the mountain. You must find the true forms of these ghosts and destroy them," Bai Xiao Xiao said. If it were anyone else, she might have chosen to go down the mountain herself. But Ningqiu Shui's performance made Bai Xiao Xiao believe he might be more suited for the task. Ningqiu Shui didn't hesitate either, taking the comb from Bai Xiao Xiao and gripping it tightly. As they ran past the campsite, the ghost guarding the mansion's main gate had vanished, but the ghost at the mountain path entrance noticed them. It flew straight toward the two. As the distance closed, they both saw its entire body was decomposing, with a thorny rope hanging from its neck. The ferocious ghost opened its mouth as large as a basin of blood and lunged straight at Ningqiu Shui. A terrifying chill flooded his entire body. Ningqiu Shui couldn't dodge, so he directly combed the wooden comb through his hair. Immediately after, the ferocious ghost passed straight through him. Then, Ningqiu Shui turned his head and shouted loudly to Bai Xiao Xiao, "Run fast, Sister Bai." She didn't hesitate either. Seeing she had attracted the ghost's attention, she turned and fled toward the ancient mansion. The ghost almost treated Ningqiu Shui as air, chasing after Bai Xiao Xiao like a shadow. Ningqiu Shui, meanwhile, ran toward the foot of the mountain. The mountain path was slippery, with no guardrails, very dangerous. He could only try to lower his center of gravity to avoid falling and tumbling down the mountain due to excessive momentum. There wasn't a single tree on this mountain path to block the wind and rain, further confirming Ningqiu Shui's speculation. Sure enough, when he reached the mountainside, he saw a familiar figure. It was cameraman Wang Peng. That guy had set up a small rain shelter, sitting in front of a computer, excitedly observing the images inside. The rain shelter was very small, only covering the computer, not him. Seeing Ningqiu Shui charging toward him from the opposite direction, Wang Peng was also stunned. Just as he stood up, Ningqiu Shui punched him straight in the face. This punch sent several of Wang Peng's teeth flying. Zheng Chao was dizzy and disoriented. The punch nearly knocked him out. With great effort, he finally managed to crawl up, only for Ningqiu Shui to punch him in the stomach. Ugh! Zheng Chao knelt on the ground, vomiting violently, his entire body convulsing uncontrollably, immediately losing the ability to move. After doing all this, Ningqiu Shui turned around, first picking up the third script placed on the computer desk. This script was completely dry, proving it wasn't the ghost's true form. Then Ningqiu Shui destroyed everything that had come into contact with the rainwater. After that, he walked over to Zheng Chao. "The game is over, Director Zheng Chao," Ningqiu Shui said. Zheng Chao slowly raised his head, his face not only devoid of pain but also showing a hint of indescribable excitement. Good, good, good. You really are the most delightful surprise in this shoot." Ningqiu Shui stared at the man on the ground. "Although the ghost's true form is most likely an object, I can't be entirely certain. You've also been soaked by the rain, so for my friend's sake, I can only send you off." With that, he directly embraced Zheng Chao's head from behind, slowly twisting it. The feeling of watching yourself gradually die, powerless to do anything, isn't it wonderful? Hearing Ning Chu Shui's whisper in his ear, Zheng Chao's eyes widened. The despairing, chilling sensation of death enveloped him, jolting him back to clarity. "Don't kill me. I can make them stop." Ning Chu Shui asked, "What is their true form?" Zheng Chao's neck had already been twisted to an unnatural angle, as if it could snap at any moment. "In my pocket, there's a pen." The sound was almost squeezed out from his throat. Ning Chu Shui took the fountain pen from Zheng Chao's chest pocket. Then, he used his fingers to snap the fountain pen in half. Immediately, Ning Chu Shui withdrew his hand, dragging the gasping Zheng Chao up the mountain. Zheng Chao wanted to escape, but Ning Chu Shui possessed terrifying strength. His struggles were utterly futile. As if annoyed by his resistance, Ning Chu Shui directly pulled him up, tilted him sideways, and then stomped on his legs as if stepping on a log. White bones along with fresh red flesh protruded from his legs, looking especially gruesome under the rain. Zheng Chao let out a miserable scream, just like those who had been seized by ghosts in the old house earlier. Ning Chu Shui silently waited for a moment, seeing Bai Xiao Xiao stagger out from the old house door, followed by several others emerging one after another. He confirmed that the 4 terrifying, vengeful spirits had disappeared, only then embracing Zheng Chao's head once more. "Don't kill me. I can give you resources, help you become big stars. In less than a year, you'll be famous. I can even get the company to sign you." Before he could finish, Ning Chu Shui coldly cut him off. "No need. Many people have died on this mountain. Go atone for them." Crack! Under Zheng Chao's desperate and terrified gaze, Ning Chu Shui broke his neck without hesitation. Zheng Chao's body went limp and collapsed. Ning Chu Shui kicked his corpse away, then took out the 3rd script. Opening the script, he froze. The content on the script sent a chill down his spine. What was recorded on it was everything they had experienced before, including him killing Zheng Chao. "How is this possible?" Ning Chu Shui kept flipping through the script, comparing every small detail inside. The more he compared, the colder his spine felt. Is the problem with the script? Could it be that everything we've done from the beginning was all a script that was prearranged? Are we just puppets being controlled by this script? Thinking this, Ning Chu Shui's face became panicked, but quickly he regained his composure. It can't be. If that were the case, this crimson door would be meaningless. This script must be a record of what happened to us. Even director Zheng Chao knew this film couldn't be completed, so when he saw me earlier, he said I was the interesting surprise of this shoot. Now the director is dead, so the filming is over. As soon as Ning Chu Shui finished speaking, not long after, they saw a mist rising from the distance, continuously spreading. In just half a minute, they were enveloped by the mist. The sound of a car horn echoed in the mist, and a dilapidated bus appeared before everyone. Seeing this bus, the group, drenched by the heavy rain, cheered. "It's over. Woo, woo, woo." What's going on? Why did this mission suddenly end? I don't know. Did someone complete the mission? I'll never enter a crimson door with a fragment again. It's too terrifying. When they were pushed into the old house by the 4 fierce ghosts, there were 16 people left. Now, only 9 remained. But in their hearts, they all understood clearly. If no one among them had completed the mission, surely even more people would have died. Everyone boarded the dilapidated bus one by one, not wanting to stay in this netherworld place a minute longer. After Ning Chu Shui, Bai Xiao Xiao, Meng Jun, and Feng Yu regrouped, Ning Chu Shui asked, "Has anyone seen Jun Tiao Tiao?" All 3 shook their heads. Ning Chu Shui hurriedly opened the 3rd script, flipping to the end. When he found the 3 characters for Jun Tiao Tiao, he was startled. She was dead. After helping them attract the attention of the ghost at the gate of the old house, Jun Tiao Tiao turned back to hide, but encountered another ghost. Then she was skinned alive on the spot, her bones and flesh thrown into the bottom of the well, her skin hung on a tree. Seeing her fate, Ning Chu Shui felt an inexplicable sense of shock. This girl died just like that? A veteran who had survived 6 crimson doors, a strong person who could escape from a ghost's grasp even after being betrayed by a teammate, died so obscurely? Ning Chu Shui reached into his pants pocket, touching the damp string of prayer beads. His throat tightened. Since entering this line of work, he rarely felt the fragility of life. He thought he had become numb. But now the death of Jun Tiao Tiao, a girl he hadn't met many times, brought Ning Chu Shui an indescribable emotion. This is inevitable. Don't blame yourself. No matter how many times one enters the Crimson Door, humans remain this weak. They can. You can die at any moment. You'll get used to it. Bai Xiao gently patted his shoulder. Ning Chu Shui remained silent for a long time before finally pulling his hand out of his pocket. Let's go. He helped Bai Xiao into the car. On her thigh were 3 deep wounds that reached the bone, the red flesh and white skin starkly contrasted, looking extremely gruesome. But fortunately, this kind of wound wasn't life-threatening for her at the moment. Meng Jun and Feng Yu weren't injured, but both their faces looked terrible. Feng Yu, who always liked to talk, had become especially quiet now, perhaps having witnessed something terrifying that he hadn't yet calmed down from. At least they were still alive, and the gains were quite substantial. But Ning Chu Shui wasn't truly happy. As Ning Chu Shui folded the 3rd script once more, a fragment suddenly appeared in his palm. It was a fragment emitting chaotic white light. Bai Xiao, sitting beside him, saw this, slightly curled her red lips, then calmly pressed her hand over Ning Chu Shui's palm, simultaneously stuffing this item into his pocket. Take it out after we get back. Bai Xiao whispered her instruction, and Ning Chu Shui gave a slight nod, signaling he understood. Once everyone was on the bus, it immediately started up, plunging into the depths of the endless mist. Because they were sitting together, Bai Xiao saw Ning Chu Shui's troubled expression reflected in the bus window. She instinctively grasped Ning Chu Shui's hand, seemingly wanting to comfort his spirit. She remembered when she felt unwell, Shan-Chi would hold her hand like this too. The warmth and softness from her palm made Ning Chu Shui momentarily dazed. Then he heard Bai Xiao softly say, "That's just how the mist world is. Humans are very fragile. Not to mention Jun Tiao Tiao, even Uncle Mang back then, who overcame countless hardships to reach the 9th Crimson Door, was a dragon among men, yet in the end, didn't he also die at a low-level door?" Bai Xiao's voice was very gentle and calm. Perhaps one day we'll be like that too, dying in a daze. The Crimson Door is a curse. It makes everyone lose what's precious in despair. Ning Chu Shui felt the warmth from her palm, his thoughts returning to his younger days. Back then, Ning Chu Shui was a true lone wolf. He didn't make friends, nor did he dare to. The washing machine had told him that to survive in this chaotic area, you couldn't trust anyone. Therefore, Ning Chu Shui didn't care about the loss of life. With just a glance, people died too quickly, like ants crushed on the road. He had no time to understand them. The only interaction was putting a bullet in their forehead. But Jun Tiao Tiao was different. She was rational, selfish, but not malicious. She had her own thoughts, knew how to weigh the teams and her own interests, and had even saved his and Bai Xiao's lives at a critical moment. She was a girl of flesh and blood. From their not-so-many interactions and small details, Ning Chu Shui could almost guess that Jun Tiao Tiao entered this Crimson Door to accept a mission from the Misty website. The man who accompanied her, Geng Hu, must have paid her a lot of money, and she truly needed that money so desperately that even when Geng Hu stabbed her in the back, she didn't even think of resisting. The reason Jun Tiao Tiao was so desperate for that money was likely related to the person named Jun Lu Yuan in the hospital. From their shared surname, it wasn't hard to tell they were relatives. Jun Tiao Tiao had risked entering the Crimson Door to earn money for Jun Lu Yuan's medical treatment. Thinking of the prayer beads Jun Tiao Tiao had entrusted to her, Ning Chu Shui felt deeply moved. Returning to the ghost dwelling was already late at night. Bai Xiao and Meng Jun went to rest first. Feng Yu added Ning Chu Shui as a friend, repeatedly thanking her before logging off. But Ning Chu Shui did not rest. First, she took the old rickety bus to leave the mist world, then hailed a late-night taxi to Kunhua Hospital. Before receiving these prayer beads, Ning Chu Shui didn't even know Jun Tiao Tiao was in the same city as her. Kunhua Hospital was located right in Shiliu City. Arriving at room 604, Ward 6, Ning Chu Shui gently knocked on the door. The curtain was quickly drawn aside. The one who opened the door for her was a young man with a scholarly, frail appearance. "Who are you looking for?" he asked. Ning Chu Shui looked inside the room. There were 2 hospital beds. On the outer bed was an old man who seemed to be asleep. The inner bed was shielded by a curtain, so Ningqiu Shui couldn't see. "Excuse me, is Jun Luyuan in this ward?" The young man nodded. He stepped aside, Ningqiu Shui entered, and then the young man closed the door. "You're a relative of Luyuan, right? Why didn't his older sister come?" Ningqiu Shui hesitated for a moment. His sister had some matters to attend to. The young man nodded. "If you want to talk, please keep your voice down. My grandfather is sleeping." Ningqiu Shui acknowledged with a sound, then walked straight towards the area behind the curtain. Behind the curtain, she saw a boy of about 15 or 16, calmly sitting on his hospital bed, gazing at the night sky outside the window. Seeing the back of this boy, Ningqiu Shui tightened her grip on the prayer beads in her hand. "Did she ask you to come?" Jun Luyuan's voice was very calm. He seemed to already know what had happened. Ningqiu Shui sat down beside him, took the prayer beads from her pocket, and handed them to Jun Luyuan. "I'm sorry," she said. Jun Luyuan took the prayer beads in his hand, gently stroking them. "Why are you apologizing to me?" Ningqiu Shui did not answer. "Your sister saved our lives, but we couldn't save her." There wasn't a trace of sorrow on Jun Luyuan's face. He suddenly turned his head, looked at Ningqiu Shui, and asked, "Since you owe my sister a debt of gratitude, then help me with one thing." Ningqiu Shui asked, "Help with what?" A smile appeared on Jun Luyuan's pale face. He turned his head back and said to Ningqiu Shui, "Take me to the final destination of the Mist World. I will. Say goodbye to my sister there." Ningqiu Shui's whole body trembled, and an expression of disbelief appeared in her eyes. How did this boy before her know about the Mist World? And he even knows about the final destination of the Mist World? "I know you have many questions, and so do I. I'm not certain about anything, but I want to try. She is my only family in this world. You all may have wronged her, but I have not." After speaking, Jun Luyuan took out an envelope from under his pillow. Seeing this envelope, Ningqiu Shui's pupils suddenly contracted. As expected, he wasn't the only one who received this letter. "Read it," Jun Luyuan said. Ningqiu Shui's fingers trembled uncharacteristically as he opened the envelope. Inside was only one very short line: "Cross the dense mist to reach the final destination. On the other shore, where the copper tree blooms, you will meet the departed loved ones again. What do you think? You owe my sister a debt of gratitude. Please repay it to me." She was always like this. Even when leaving, she didn't say goodbye to me. Jun Luyuan smiled at Ningqiu Shui, but his voice was choked with emotion. "No matter the cost, I want to see her one more time to properly bid her farewell." Ningqiu Shui had too many doubts in his heart. "Do you know who sent you this letter?" The boy sitting beside him shook his head. "I don't know. It suddenly appeared, without any signature. But the content is definitely not fake, because right after I received the letter, my sister told me about the ghost dwelling in the Mist World." "Aren't you from there?" The two spoke very softly, and with the curtain drawn, the young man guarding his grandfather nearby couldn't hear. Ningqiu Shui was somewhat surprised that the boy could remember things about the Mist World. Those not chosen by the Mist World, even if they learn about matters related to it, quickly forget. But he quickly thought of the letter the boy had received. Could it be because of this letter? If you've heard your sister talk about it, then you must know how dangerous that place is. I know, it's a world of ghosts and monsters, but I'm not afraid. Even if I die on the way, for me it would be a kind of release. Ningqiu Shui slightly opened his mouth. He really wanted to refuse the boy before him, but he couldn't find the words. "I'll leave you my contact information. Let me ask the people in the ghost dwelling first, then confirm with you." Jun Luyuan took Ningqiu Shui's contact information and softly said thank you. Ningqiu Shui shook his head, gave the boy a few words of advice, then took a taxi home and collapsed into sleep. When he woke up, it was already the next afternoon. Ningqiu Shui saw a missed call on his phone. Field Mouse had called this morning. He called back and a familiar voice came from the other end. "Coffin, about that painting from last time, couldn't find any useful information." There was only one fortune teller, skinny and frail. After looking at the painting, he mumbled something to me, then clung to me, demanding money, threatening to call the police otherwise, saying I was bullying China's intangible cultural heritage inheritor or something. Ning Chu Shui listened to Field Mouse's tone, both annoyed and amused. Field Mouse, his heart stirred slightly. Can you roughly describe what he looked like? What did he look like? Not too sure, I wasn't paying much attention at the time. Anyway, he was just a fake blind man, wearing round-framed sunglasses, dressed in an old-fashioned style. I didn't ask much. While I was sitting around, I had the painting beside me, and he happened to pass by and see it. He came over to chat with me, saying he could tell my fortune. Ning Chu Shui raised an eyebrow. What did he say to you? Field Mouse yawned. He told me the meaning of this painting is fate. Fate? Yeah, you know how these fortune tellers love to talk about this stuff. He told me the painting depicts a person knocking on a door. Isn't that the character for fate? That makes sense. That fake blind fortune teller also told me the meaning of this painting is entering the door means entering fate, but that door is covered in blood, a sign of great misfortune. After entering fate, it's 10 deaths with no chance of survival, all just the usual tricks of those wandering fortune tellers. It gave me a headache. Ning Chu Shui listened to Field Mouse's description and fell silent for a long time. Entering the door means entering fate. In his 27 years, he had never believed in fate. Ning Chu Shui had always been a staunch atheist. From the age of 16, when he followed the military into the chaotic border regions, until he left at 21, Ning Chu Shui had stained his hands with the blood of countless people. If ghosts and spirits truly existed in this world, he would have been dead long ago. Not believing in ghosts and gods, naturally, he didn't believe in fate either. But now, Ning Chu Shui's perspective had shifted slightly. When he stepped into the mist world, he realized that perhaps there really was some force controlling everything from the depths of the darkness. His unwavering will was beginning to waver. All right, enough talk. I still have a lot to do. Once I'm finished, I'll help you investigate further. Though honestly, if nothing turns up, there's nothing more I can do. Got it. After hanging up, Ning Chu Shui lay on the bed for a long time. His thoughts were rarely as chaotic as they were now. It wasn't until the gnawing hunger consumed him that he picked up his phone to order some food, then contacted another person. Hello, Sister Bai. Yeah, it's Chu Shui. On the other end of the line, Bai Xiao Xiao, wearing a bathrobe, rubbed her head, opened a bottle of sparkling wine, and took 2 generous sips. Go ahead, what do you need my help with so urgently? I want you to help me find a group. Which group? Luo Sheng Men. After Ning Chu Shui uttered those last 3 words, the other end of the line suddenly fell silent. You, where did you hear that name? It's related to some matters in the real world. I can't say much. All right, this doesn't even require investigation. Luo Sheng Men isn't a group in the real world. They operate mainly in the mist world. At their peak, it's said they had 6 grandmasters who passed through 8 crimson doors. But I heard something happened before. 2 of them died. Still, they remain one of the top forces in the mist world. Many large orders are placed directly with them. As for other details, I don't know much. Ning Chu Shui heard this, his mouth agape. After hesitating for a moment, he said, Uncle Mang's death might be related to Luo Sheng Men. Bai Xiao Xiao on the other end of the line immediately changed expression upon hearing this. What have you found out? Ning Chu Shui said, It's just speculation, something I happened to learn. There were a few murder cases in Shiliu City before. A friend of mine happens to work at the police station and mentioned this to me. I can't reveal more specific details, sorry. A glint flashed in Bai Xiao Xiao's eyes. That's fine. Is there anything else? Ning Chu Shui remembered Jun Lu Yuan and said, I have a special friend. He wants to join our ghost dwelling. Is there a way? Bai Xiao asked, He hasn't been cursed by the Crimson Door yet? No. Then it's possible, but you'd better advise your friend to think carefully. The world behind the Crimson Door is truly bizarre and cruel. Ning Chu Shui was silent for a moment. Then when there's a chance, I'll bring him to meet you first. Bai Xiao Xiao said, No problem. I'm at Midi Xiang. When the time comes, just bring him to the entrance of Midi Xiang and call me. Ning Chu Shui agreed. Just then, another call came in. Well, that's all for now, Bai Jie. My food delivery is here. I'm going to eat. Okay, bye. After finishing dinner, Ningqiu Shui opened his cooing bird computer, searched for Red Bean, and sent a message. I know the meaning of that painting. The message had just been sent when Red Bean's gray avatar immediately lit up. Tell me. I can tell you, but I have one condition. I need to meet you once. No need to meet. Tell me I can pay you. Why not meet? Are you really stupid or just pretending? Looking at Red Bean's reply, Ning Shui frowned. There seemed to be some hidden meaning here. What do you mean? You're in such a hurry to meet me. If you're not an assassin, then it proves you also received that mysterious letter, right? What's an assassin? Sigh, I see you really know nothing. Meeting me is your luck. If you'd encountered an assassin, the grass on your grave would be 3 meters high by now. To put it simply, the fact that you received the mysterious letter, it's best not to let anyone know. At the very least, don't be obvious during your investigation. Be discreet and quiet. Why? Because there's a group of assassins specifically dealing with these people, and those assassins are extremely formidable. Seeing Red Bean's message, Ning Chishui's heart pounded. He recalled the assassins he had encountered before. The boss of Half Mountain Demon, Yun Du, had told him that those assassins came to kill him because he received the Mountain Ghost list and offended Luo Sheng men. But now it seemed there might be another hidden reason. Could it be related to him receiving the letter? What if it's not because I received the Mountain Ghost list, but because someone knew I received this letter? But the only people who know I received the mysterious letter are the cuckoo and field mouse. The cuckoo is probably 6 feet under by now, so could it be field mouse? This thought suddenly flashed through Ning Chishui's mind, making him break out in a cold sweat. But he quickly dismissed this speculation. His relationship with field mouse was very special. Moreover, if field mouse really wanted to harm him, he wouldn't have waited this long. Carefully recalling, Ning Shui speculated that Field Mouse might have inadvertently leaked some information while helping him trace the origin of the letter. And immediately after, Ning Shui thought of another person, Uncle Mang. This man he had never met might also have been noticed and killed because he received the mysterious letter. After all, the cause of his death had always been a mystery. No one knew what happened inside the Crimson Door at that time. The only person who entered the Crimson Door with Uncle Mang and witnessed everything, that newcomer, had now vanished from the world. While Ning Chishui was lost in thought, Red Bean sent him another message. Red Bean, hey buddy, you still there? Yes. Damn, you didn't reply for so long. I thought you were a goner. Anyway, I've said what I needed to say. Now tell me, what does that painting actually mean? A person knocking on the door is for fate. Entering the door means entering fate. After seeing this message, Red Bean went offline directly. Ning Shui later sent him more messages, but Red Bean didn't reply, and it was unclear whether he left or died. Seeing this, he could only shut down the computer. The next afternoon, Ning Shui went to the hospital, completed the discharge procedures for Junlu Yuan, and then took him to Midi Xiang. This residential area was the wealthiest in Shiliu City. After the dense high-rise buildings disappeared behind them, more greenery and various luxurious classical architectural styles appeared before the two. Junlu Yuan looked outside. Although his body was weak, he didn't get carsick. Throughout the journey, he stared out the car window with a look of astonishment. In his eyes, there was an indescribable flame of longing. It was a longing for freedom. It was evident that he hadn't left the hospital for a long time. What illness do you have? Leukemia. Junlu Yuan didn't shy away from the malignant disease that had tormented him for so long. Treatment requires a lot of money. Our family is poor. My older sister traded her life to get that money. I've always wanted to end my own life. I didn't want to see my older sister living so exhaustedly. At this point, Junlu Yuan fell silent, not finishing his sentence. But Ning Shui could also guess that Jin Tiao Tiao wouldn't let Junlu Yuan die like that. The car didn't drive for long before stopping in front of a majestic, magnificent villa. This large villa was Midiexiang. Midiexiang. occupied a very large area, containing a total of 64 luxurious private villas inside, each worth up to 8 figures. The people living here were either rich or noble, belonging to the top echelon. If it weren't for Bai Xiao, Ning Chu Shui would probably never have come to this place, unless he was on a killing mission. Outside Mi Di Xiang stood fully armed guards. Ning Chu Shui called Bai Xiao, and after she connected, she told him to wait a moment. After a short wait, Bai Xiao emerged wearing a red nightgown, her feet in a pair of black flip-flops. Unlike the Bai Jie he had met before in the ghost dwelling, here she exuded a mysterious, alluring beauty and aura. "Yingqi, my friend, just open the back door, okay?" She smiled at the security guard at the entrance. The guard immediately understood and stepped aside. "Please come in." And so they entered Bai Xiao's private villa. Passing by the fish pond, the first floor housed a massive indoor private swimming pool. They went up to the second floor. Bai Xiao stepped out onto the balcony, sat on a rosewood swing chair, kicked off her flip-flops, and crossed her long, fair legs on the leather cushion. Sunlight shone down, her skin even reflecting the light. "What's his name?" "Junlu Yuan." The boy's gaze was very clear, and there was an indescribable sense of familiarity. Hearing this name, Bai Xiao was stunned for a moment, then, as if to confirm, she looked at Ning Chu Shui beside her. He gave a slight nod. "Jun Tiao's younger brother has leukemia." He detailed the situation for Bai Xiao, her expression growing more serious. "The Mist World isn't a place you can just enter if you want to. If you haven't been cursed by the Crimson Door, someone who wants to actively enter the Mist World must first complete a challenge. Only by surviving the challenge can you join the Ghost Dwelling, and you'll directly skip the first 3 novice doors, starting from the 4th door, the Crimson Door." Bai Xiao bluntly told this harsh truth to the boy before her. Both she and Ning Chu Shui felt they owed Jun Tiao. Therefore, she didn't want Junlu Yuan to jump into the fire pit just to save his sister. As for the treatment costs, that amount was negligible to her. She could cover all future medical expenses. "I'm not afraid. If I die in the challenge, I accept it." Junlu Yuan was very resolute. "I want to go to the Ghost Dwelling, then go straight to the very end of the Mist World." Bai Xiao sighed. She took a bottle of soda from the nearby fridge, opened it, and took a couple of big gulps. Also, there must be an experienced Ghost Dwelling member who actively sacrifices themselves to take you into the challenge together. The difficulty of that challenge is almost equivalent to the 4th Crimson Door. At this point, Junlu Yuan was startled. He looked at Ning Chu Shui but said nothing. He couldn't force Ning Chu Shui to join the challenge with him. He wasn't in the habit of forcing others, so he just remained silent. "But you don't need to worry about this. If you really want to enter, I can take you in. But I can't guarantee your safety, so you must think carefully. Don't make an impulsive decision." Junlu Yuan smiled, a smile that held no joy. "My sister is the only person I have in this world." Ning Chu Shui said, "I'll take you there. Might as well get some training in too. Once cursed by the Crimson Door, there's no escape. The more you want to live, the less you can fear death." Bai Xiao looked at Ning Chu Shui and said, "Chu Shui, have you thought this through?" Ning Chu Shui nodded. Seeing his calm expression, Bai Xiao said nothing more. "If you two have decided, then get ready to go. To our Ghost Dwelling, then. Take him to sign a contract with the Crimson Door. After the contract is completed, all his illnesses will be cured, then you two will participate in the challenge." Ning Chu Shui nodded, summoning a bus from the Mist website. Quickly, the bus appeared outside Bai Xiao's apartment, accompanied by a dense fog. Everything outside seemed cut off by this mist. Not only were there no people in sight, but even the sounds of insects had completely vanished, leaving only absolute silence. "I still have matters here, so I won't go with you two. Tonight, I'll wait for you at the entrance of the Ghost Dwelling." At this point, Bai Xiao glanced casually toward Ning Chu Shui, as if speaking to both of them, yet also as if speaking to him alone. "Come back safely." Ning Chu Shui gave a slight nod. Then he boarded the bus. The bus drove through the mist. Junlu Yuan, his face pale, stared intently out the window. "Brother Chu Shui, did you also take this bus to the Ghost Dwelling for the first time?" Ning Chu Shui replied, Everyone's first time is like this. Junlu Yuan said nothing, a smile appearing on his face. For him, perhaps seeing another side of this world before dying was also a blessing from the heavens. At the ghost dwelling, only Meng Jun was there. He was sitting in the lobby drinking, watching a bland TV drama on the television. Even though it was just a TV drama, Meng Jun was watching it very seriously. Ning Chu Shui couldn't imagine someone so cold liking this kind of show. Another newcomer? Meng Jun glanced at Ning Chu Shui. After going through a crimson door together, his attitude toward Ning Chu Shui had become slightly less cold. Though still aloof, he now nodded in greeting and occasionally spoke a sentence. Not a newcomer. Ning Chu Shui explained everything to him. Meng Jun nodded. All right, I'll take you too. At the head of the stairs, Ning Chu Shui took out the puzzle piece he carried and fitted it into the jigsaw puzzle painting. As the glowing piece was placed into the painting, the light gradually began to fade, finally merging completely with the painting. The terrifying, decaying head in the image became more vivid. On the top of the head, where there was originally a bloody hole, something seemed to be growing. Seeing this, Ning Chu Shui finally understood. It turned out that after they found a new puzzle piece, the other pieces would also change. That's the 7th piece, Meng Jun said. I hope you can return safely. After saying this, he led the two to the 3rd floor. The wooden door here was tightly shut. Meng Jun told Junlu Yuan to hold out his hand, then lightly cut it with a knife. He let a bit of blood flow, then told Junlu Yuan to place his hand on the wooden door. The boy complied. When his blood touched the wooden door, the door suddenly trembled. Thump, thump! At first, it was just light knocks, but then the knocking grew louder and louder, even turning into violent pounding. Bang! Bang, bang, bang! Ning Chu Shui instinctively took a step back. Junlu Yuan also wanted to retreat instinctively, but his hand seemed glued to the wooden door, unable to move. Behind the wooden door, it felt as if something terrifying was trying to break out. And not just one. Suddenly, the wooden door cracked open a slit. Immediately after, a rotting arm abruptly grabbed Junlu Yuan's wrist. A bone-piercing chill rapidly spread from his wrist throughout his entire body. Junlu Yuan felt as if even his soul was being frozen. His eyes widened, staring at the rotting arm gripping his wrist, his heart pounding wildly. A scene that only appeared in horror movies was now truly happening. The breath of death swallowed him whole. Junlu Yuan's pupils began to dissolve, his consciousness gradually sinking into the icy cold, falling endlessly. Just as he thought he was about to die, that rotting arm let go. Warmth returned to his body and soul. The darkness before his eyes gradually faded. When Junlu Yuan regained consciousness, he saw a pitch-black handprint on his wrist. But strangely, the pain and weakness in his body had vanished. After signing the contract, the Crimson Door will grant you a completely healthy body. All previous illnesses, pains, and even congenital defects will be cured. But don't think this is a favor, it just doesn't like toys that can't resist. Meng Jun's monotonous voice rang out. Immediately after, a few more lines of blood-red text appeared on the Crimson Door. Mission: survive 5 days in Madame Monica's villa and find the villa's main gate key. Note 1. Do not get wet in the rain. Note 2. Do not stare at it for too long. Welcome guests to the ancient Allen Castle. Before the massive brown castle gate, a middle-aged man in a neat vest, wearing a cross around his neck, smiled at the 16 people before him. I am the butler here, Neil. Madame Monica is praying in the chapel. Please prepare yourselves. After Madame finishes her prayers, we can have dinner together. I have prepared this dinner for you for a very long time. I hope you will be satisfied. After speaking, Butler Neil turned and entered the ancient castle, standing silently at the door, waiting for everyone to enter. There were 16 people here in total, all curiously observing their surroundings. This was the 4th Crimson Door. The sky was clear, with light clouds drifting by. There was no sign of impending rain. Junlu Yuan stood beside Ning Chu Shui, curiously assessing everything around him. Did my sister earn money in a place like this before? Ning Chu Shui whispered to Junlu Yuan beside him. Remember the mission and the Crimson Door's reminders. After entering the castle, don't touch things randomly, and don't let your gaze linger in one place for too long. Junlu Yuan nodded. Everyone found their teammates, then filed through the castle's main gate. As they passed the butler, they couldn't help but glance at him. Based on past experience, the first NPC they encountered upon entering the Crimson Door world was usually very important. Thus, he easily drew their attention. This butler's skin was extremely pale, devoid of any hint of blood color, and the smile on his face was somewhat stiff and indescribable. It gave people the feeling that he wasn't quite alive. When passing by him, they could also sense a faint, wafting chill. Ningqiu Shui also assessed the butler briefly, but his gaze focused more on the butler's waist. This Crimson Door mission required them not only to survive for 5 days in the ancient castle, but also to find the main gate key to leave the castle. Where was the key most likely to be? Of course, on the butler's person. But the spot where the key should have been hanging was empty. After everyone entered the castle, Butler Neil didn't even close the door, instead directly leading everyone to the castle's great hall. Quite a few people turned to look back, seeing the castle's main gate still wide open, but no one reacted. "Butler Neil, do you normally not close the castle's main gate?" From the crowd, a short, slightly plump man asked. This question was also what everyone wanted to ask. Butler Neil, hearing this, didn't turn around and calmly said, "The castle's main gate is only closed when it rains." Everyone heard this and had strange expressions. Only closed when it rains. Why is that? May I ask, why does the castle only close its main gate when it rains? The butler didn't explain the reason in detail, only saying, "The madam's request." Butler Neil led everyone to the first hall, telling them, this was the young master's favorite place before. When he was little, he loved sitting by the wall fireplace and reading books when it rained. After a brief introduction, the butler led everyone further into a dim corridor. This corridor wasn't very well lit. After everyone entered, they felt a slight chill. This is a mural corridor. It's hung entirely with the young master's paintings. Before, he loved painting and writing poetry. Everyone looked in the direction the butler pointed. On the mottled wall bearing the marks of time, it was indeed hung with all sorts of scribbled drawings and poetry collections. Although these drawings were very haphazard, no matter how clumsy the strokes, they were all solemnly framed. Ningqiu Shui glanced over and saw the content of these paintings was generally not very different. A child sitting in a corner of a room, heavy rain outside the window, the room door tightly shut, but there seemed to be something standing outside the door. A distorted silhouette in the door crack was drawn with particular clarity. There were 6 such paintings in total, depicting 6 different locations within the castle. It seemed the child in the room was hiding from something, but no matter where the boy hid, he would be found. Ningqiu Shui slightly furrowed his brow. He looked toward the butler's retreating back. "Butler, may I ask, where has the young master of this castle gone?" Hearing this question, Neil turned around, smiling at Ningqiu Shui and said, "Please wait a moment, the madam is praying. She will return shortly from the chapel in the backyard." Upon hearing his reply, everyone's expressions shifted slightly. Just as Ningqiu Shui was about to ask another question, Jun Luyuan beside her unexpectedly spoke up. "We were asking, where is the young master?" The smile on Butler Neil's face didn't change in the slightest. His reply was equally natural. "Please rest assured, the prayer session will conclude in another 10 minutes. Dinner has already been prepared for you all." After he finished speaking, the atmosphere became eerily silent. Everyone felt there was something off about this butler. He was like a puppet being controlled. In this silence, Butler Neil led everyone to the second hall, then stood smiling beneath a plaster statue. That plaster statue was a sculpture of Jesus Christ crucified on the cross, made in a 1:1 scale. The deathly pale skin of Jesus was nailed to the wooden cross. A large dining table was placed before the statue of Jesus, its tabletop like a blade, dividing the plastered Jesus into upper and lower halves. This arrangement was truly unsettling. The butler stood beneath the statue of Jesus, unmoving, not speaking, like a glossy black statue, his entire body exuding a chilling aura. But although his body didn't move, his eyes did, occasionally appraising everyone, his face carrying an almost eerie smile. After everyone waited in that oppressive atmosphere for about 10 minutes, a muffled bell tolled from the distance. After 3 bell tolls, Butler Neil finally began to move again, speaking to everyone with great deference. "My apologies for keeping you waiting. The madam has returned. Please, have a seat. I will go prepare your dinner." With that, Butler Neil departed, leaving everyone standing in place. People exchanged a few words, some polite greetings, then heard the crisp sound of high heels echoing from the dimly lit western corridor. Click, click, click. The sound was neither fast nor slow, but very distinct. Everyone looked in that direction. As the footsteps drew near, a tall, slender woman in a tight-fitting black dress appeared before everyone. When they got a clear look at this woman, everyone shuddered. This woman appeared to be around 50 years old. Just looking at her from a distance made one feel profoundly uncomfortable. Black dress, black high heels, pallid skin, and bright red painted fingernails. She was nearly 2 meters tall, thin and towering. An air of nobility about her was accompanied by an inexplicable coldness. Notably, the woman's arms were extremely long. Although her height was nearly 2 meters, when she let her arms hang down, they almost reached her knees. Her face was rigid, almost incapable of showing a smile. She gave a slight nod to everyone, then without a word, took her seat in the host's chair. After she sat down, everyone else also took their seats one by one. About 2 or 3 minutes later, everyone saw the butler Neil pushing a small cart over. On the cart were delicious dishes arranged beautifully. Steaming hot, the aroma had already spread to every corner of the room. The butler, wearing a pair of very formal white gloves, then placed each dish from the cart in front of everyone. "Please enjoy your meal, madam and guests," the butler said with a smile on his face, then pushed the cart away. After he left, the woman in black picked up her knife and fork, expertly cutting the steak on her plate. As the knife gently glided across the soft surface of the steak, a bright red liquid immediately spilled onto the snow-white plate. This was a nearly raw steak. Seeing the hostess had started, Ning Chu Shui and the others also did not hesitate any longer. The atmosphere at the dining table was particularly stifling. No one spoke, only the sound of knives and forks clinking against plates and the sound of chewing food. 20 minutes later, the hostess finished eating. She ate a lot. Just the steak alone, she ate 7 pieces. Normally, even a grown man couldn't eat that much. After finishing her meal, the hostess stood up, gave a slight nod to everyone again, then turned and left. After everyone finished eating, the butler skillfully cleared the dishes. "Please wait for me a few minutes. I will take these down to the kitchen for the maid to wash. Then I will take you to your accommodations for tonight." Butler Neil said to everyone with a smile on his face, then pushed the dining cart away. 5 minutes later, he returned and led everyone to the 2nd floor of the castle. At the top of the stairs, everyone suddenly heard a clap of thunder from above. Boom! The thunder was very clear. Everyone heard it, but their faces all showed clear surprise. Before entering the castle, they had observed the weather outside. Anyone with a bit of common sense knew that it simply couldn't rain outside. But after the thunder, the dense sound of falling rain quickly echoed from outside. Butler Neil, who was about to lead them upstairs, heard the sound of rain and his expression changed. He apologized to everyone. "I'm truly sorry. It's raining outside. According to the madam's requirements, when it rains, the castle gates must be closed. Please wait a moment." After saying this, the butler took a key from inside his chest and hurriedly went down the stairs. After he left, those standing at the top of the stairs looked at each other, all seeing the meaningful glances in each other's eyes. A key that can lock a door, of course, can also open a door. The key their main mission required them to find had appeared. "Brother Chu Shui, do we have to find that key?" Jun Luyuan asked quietly beside Ning Chu Shui. Ning Chu Shui nodded slightly. "Yes. Initially, I thought finding this key would require a lot of effort. I didn't expect it to appear not long after entering this crimson door. But this isn't necessarily a good thing. That key, I'm afraid it won't be easy to obtain." Jun Luyuan nodded. This was his first time entering a crimson door, both curious and wary. Not long after, the butler returned. He led everyone upstairs again. Ning Chu Shui stared at the wet footprints the butler left on the floor, frowning slightly. There was water. Why was there water? Had the butler just been outside? He just went to close the door. Why would he go out? Ning Shui's gaze sharpened slightly, but he didn't show it, following the butler up to the second floor of the castle. The rooms here can only be locked from the inside, so there are no spare keys. There are a total of 16 rooms for you guests. Please arrange yourselves. Pausing for a moment, Butler Neil added a meaningful sentence. Each room can accommodate a maximum of 2 people. Tomorrow at 6 a.m., I will prepare breakfast for you, placed on the table downstairs. I will come to clean up at 10 a.m. Then, I wish you all a pleasant night at the castle. Ah, that's right, I forgot to tell you. The 3rd floor of the castle has the young master's room and the madam's room. The madam does not like guests going there, so if there's nothing important, it's best you don't go to the upper floor. Even if you do go up, don't go near the east corridor. After saying this, Butler Neil turned and left. Everyone saw the 16 rooms along this corridor, numbered from 201 to 216, 8 rooms on each side. Ning Shui led Junlu Yuan into room 216 at the very end. The room was very clean, with a private bathroom. It's just that near the window, there were some paper and pencils, along with a stress relief squeeze toy. The two of them briefly inspected the room. Junlu Yuan went to the window, squeezed the toy a few times and put it back, his gaze falling on the paper and pencils on the table. That's strange. Why prepare these things for guests? For drawing? He was about to check the pen and paper when he heard Ning Shui suddenly say, "If you think it's strange, then don't touch these things." Junlu Yuan stopped his movement to pick up the pen, turned his head and saw Ning Shui's rather serious expression and nodded. Okay, also, the world behind the Crimson Door at night is relatively dangerous. The yin energy is very heavy and anything could appear. If you hear any sounds at night, remember not to pay attention to them. Ning Shui briefly introduced Junlu Yuan to some precautions within the Crimson Door. He memorized them all. Ning Shui also came to stand beside Junlu Yuan, looking out at the gloomy sky and heavy rain through the clear glass. "This rain came very strangely," he said. Junlu Yuan replied, "Yes, it feels like it's rained specifically for us." Through the hazy curtain of rain, the two saw the chapel behind the villa. That place was pitch black. Although it was a chapel, it always exuded a gloomy feeling. Even from hundreds of meters away, Ning Shui could vaguely sense the malevolence emanating from there. Time passed very quickly. After washing up, the two lay on their respective large beds, quietly listening to the sound of rain falling outside the window. The pitter-patter of the rain grew louder and louder. The heavier the rain, the louder the sound became. At first, it was quite pleasant to listen to, but by midnight, Junlu Yuan, who was drifting off to sleep, was startled awake by a fierce knocking sound outside the window. Bang, bang, bang! Bang, bang, bang! The rapid, violent sound instantly jolted Junlu Yuan awake in bed. Something's wrong. This isn't the sound of rain. He keenly sensed the abnormality, cracking his eyes open to peer toward the window. That single glance sent a chill from the crown of his head to the soles of his feet. Junlu Yuan saw a black shadow behind the window curtain. The shadow had only an upper body, was extremely thin and tall, and was currently outside their window, rapidly clawing at the glass. Bang, 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 bang! Each strike produced a loud, reverberating sound. Junlu Yuan's heart was now lodged in his throat, as if about to leap out. What was that thing outside the window? This was the 2nd floor. How was it standing outside their window? In an instant, countless terrifying thoughts flooded his mind. Even Junlu Yuan, who had mentally prepared himself, now felt his limbs turn icy cold. He slowly shifted his gaze to Ning Shui on the adjacent bed. This person seemed to be sleeping soundly under the covers, not moving a muscle. Seeing this, Junlu Yuan took a deep breath, forced his eyes shut, and pretended not to hear the noise outside the window. Right now, he could only pray that the thing outside the window wouldn't shatter the glass. Under the covers, Junlu Yuan could clearly feel his limbs trembling uncontrollably. Big sister, all this time she had to face things like this to earn money for my treatment. Thinking of his sister, Junlu Yuan's nose suddenly stung, and he clenched his fists tightly. The fear in his heart no longer seemed quite so overwhelming. It probably can't get in, right? Junlu Yuan took another deep breath, trying to suppress the terror within. If it couldn't get in, then as long as he didn't open the window, he'd be safe. But just as that thought crossed his mind, the banging on the window ceased. Curious, Junlu Yuan cracked his eyes open again. What he saw next, however, made him tremble once more. He saw the shadow outside the window gradually materializing. Gulp. Under the covers, Junlu Yuan couldn't help but swallow hard. He kept his eyes slightly open, observing the shadow illuminated through the curtain. Soon, Junlu Yuan discovered something that made his scalp go numb. That shadow didn't seem to be cast by something outside the window, but was water stains seeping onto their curtain. In other words, that thing had already entered their room and was gradually approaching. Damn it! Upon realizing this, Junlu Yuan understood for the first time what it meant to feel a chill seep from every pore. His gaze fell on Ning Chushui's bed. This person was truly asleep in bed, but if Ning Chushui was asleep, then whose shadow was in their room? When Junlu Yuan looked back at the curtain, he was horrified to find the water stains on it growing darker, denser, finally coalescing into a nearly 2-meter-tall, gaunt woman. This woman was the black-clad lady of the castle. Click-clack, click-clack. The crisp sound of high heels echoed in the room. The black-clad lady stepped closer and closer to their beds, a pungent, fishy odor assaulting their faces. She used her red-nailed hand to pull back Ning Chushui's blanket, examined him closely, and then covered him again. Then she came before Junlu Yuan. His heart was pounding so hard it felt like it would leap out of his chest. Although Junlu Yuan tried his utmost not to show any tension, pretending to be asleep, but he couldn't suppress his instincts. Fortunately, the lady in black didn't notice anything unusual. After her ice-cold fingers withdrew, the lady in black turned around and walked to the reading desk by the window. She opened the picture book on the desk, flipping through the pages very quickly and carefully. A cold female voice echoed in the room. "Why can't I find it? Why can't I find it? Why can't I find it?" Her voice was cold and terrifying. A long time passed until she had flipped through the entire picture book in her hand, before this sound gradually faded away. Junlu Yuan waited another minute, then slowly opened his eyes. Confirming that the terrifying, tall and thin woman was no longer in the room, he finally let out a soft sigh of relief. At this moment, he glanced over at Ning Chushui's bed and saw him staring wide-eyed at him. "Brother Chushui, you weren't asleep." Junlu Yuan was stunned. Ning Chushui gave a slight nod, placing a finger on his lips, signaling for him to lower his voice. Then, Ning Chushui sat up and walked step by step to the side of the curtain. On the floor, on the curtain, on the desk, and on the empty picture book on the desk, there were droplets of water. Ning Chushui carefully pulled the curtain aside. Outside the window, rain was pouring down, but the terrifying, tall and thin figure was gone. But just as Ning Chushui turned back around, a fierce knocking sound rang out behind him. However, this knocking came from the window of the adjacent room 215. The two people in the room exchanged a look. Ning Chushui immediately went to the bedside and pressed his ear against the wall. Junlu Yuan imitated Ning Chushui, holding his breath, quietly listening for any movement from the next room. Knocking, footsteps, and that familiar voice, "Why can't I find it? Why can't I find it?" The process was nearly identical to what had just happened in their room. But just as both thought the lady in black was about to leave, they heard a cold, mad laugh. "Found it." Then, the next room fell completely silent. The two of them pressed their ears against the wall, listening for a long time. But they heard nothing. About 10 minutes later, a light tapping sound came from outside the window again. This tapping sound probably came from room 214. It seems no one will be lucky enough to escape tonight. Ning Chushui sat cross-legged on the bed, his voice grave. Junlu Yuan beside him trembled, saying nothing. Ning Chushui didn't look down on him. In fact, he felt a bit surprised. For someone entering the Crimson Door for the first time, to be able to resist fear like this was already extremely rare. Brother Chushui, what is that woman? What is she looking for?" Junlu Yuan's tongue was a bit tied, cold sweat dripping down his face drop by drop. Ning Chushui looked at the empty picture book on the desk, remained silent for a moment, then replied, "Wait until tomorrow morning. We'll probably know." Once the window tapping was 2 rooms away, it was almost impossible to hear. Thus, Ningqiu Shui and Junlu Yuan had no idea what was happening in the other rooms. They could only rest quietly in their room, waiting for the next day to arrive. The sound of rain falling outside the window continued unabated. The two lay on the bed without speaking, and Ningqiu Shui's steady breathing soon filled the air. Junlu Yuan found it hard to sleep. Having just experienced such events, he hadn't fully calmed down yet. He closed his eyes, trying to sleep for a while, but sleep eluded him. His thoughts grew increasingly chaotic, a sense of restlessness taking hold. He sighed, unable to stop himself from sitting up in bed. The room was pitch black, devoid of anything. Instinctively, Junlu Yuan walked over to the window. He carefully lifted the curtain and peered through the dense curtain of rain toward the chapel in the villa's backyard. That place was dark and silent. Unconsciously, Junlu Yuan thought of his older sister. He thought, his sister must also know that as long as he entered the ghost dwelling, his illness would be cured. But his sister, Jun Tiao Tiao, would rather risk earning money to treat his illness than let him step into this dangerous place. Only now did Junlu Yuan deeply understand what his frail, thin sister had endured, and he became even more determined to reach the end of the mist world. He didn't know if the contents of that letter were true or false, but now those words had become his reason to keep living. As his thoughts drifted, a dark shadow suddenly entered his field of vision, pulling him back to reality. Junlu Yuan focused his gaze, crouched down, and carefully looked through the clear window pane, staring intently at the path leading to the distant chapel. On that path, a tall, thin shadow was pulling something resembling a rope, moving forward relentlessly. Though it was very far away, Junlu Yuan recognized that shadow immediately. It was the lady in black. What is she doing? Why is she pulling a rope? Junlu Yuan was curious. He continued to observe, but soon his eyes filled with terror, because Junlu Yuan saw that behind the rope the lady in black was pulling were 3 corpses, 3 human corpses. She just kept pulling the 3 corpses to the front of the chapel door, then reached out and gave it a gentle push. The chapel door opened. Then, the lady in black pulled the 3 corpses inside the chapel. What happened after that, Junlu Yuan could not see. Are those 3 corpses the people she just killed? What is she pulling them into the chapel for? Isn't a chapel a place for prayer? It's not to offer sacrifices to some evil deity, is it? Many thoughts flashed through Junlu Yuan's mind, but he quickly dismissed the idea of sacrificing to an evil deity. The lady in black herself was not human. From the various symbolic structures within the villa, it wasn't hard to discern that the lady in black was a Christian believer, at least when she was alive. Therefore, even if she were making offerings to someone, it could only be to Jesus Christ. Even though Junlu Yuan wasn't a Christian, he knew Jesus didn't eat human flesh. If it's not to offer sacrifices to a deity, then why is she dragging these corpses into the chapel? What was she praying for? Junlu Yuan was confused. He stared at the chapel door for a long time, but it remained tightly shut, never opening again. No one knew what that woman in black was doing inside. Around 4 in the morning, Junlu Yuan finally couldn't take it anymore. He gave up on observing the chapel any longer and returned to bed. Soon after, he fell asleep. Around 8 in the morning, many noises and footsteps echoed from the corridor outside. Junlu Yuan was awakened and hurriedly sat up. Ningqiu Shui was no longer by his side. Junlu Yuan quickly washed his face, then opened the door and stepped into the corridor. Many people were gathered outside the adjacent room 215. Ningqiu Shui was there too. "Brother Qiu Shui, what's going on?" Junlu Yuan walked over and asked Ningqiu Shui, who looked slightly tense. He pointed to room 215. "The person in this room is missing." Junlu Yuan was startled upon hearing this. Missing? He looked into room 215 in surprise. The interior layout was almost identical to theirs, except the blank sketchbook on the table was gone. Seeing the blank sketchbook, Junlu Yuan immediately thought of the image of the lady in black continuously flipping through the sketchbook in their room last night. At that time, she was flipping through the book while saying she couldn't find it. Could it be that lady was looking for the person who drew the pictures? If any of them had left a trace on that sketchbook last night, would they have been killed by the lady in black? tied to that rope and dragged into the chapel? Thinking of this, Junlu Yuan got goosebumps, because he clearly remembered that when he first entered this room yesterday, he had also intended to look at the pen and sketchbook. If Ningqiu Shui hadn't stopped him in time last night, perhaps the lady in black would have dragged away 4 corpses. The scene from last night was still vivid in his mind. Junlu Yuan quickly stepped forward, gently tugged on Ningqiu Shui's sleeve. Understanding his meaning, Ningqiu Shui returned to the room with him. "What is it?" Junlu Yuan recounted what he had seen last night. After listening, Ningqiu Shui fell silent. Seeing him say nothing, Junlu Yuan asked quietly, "Brother Qi Shui, do you think that woman in black, is she looking for the person who drew the pictures?" Ningqiu Shui nodded and shook his head at the same time. "Last night, I thought so too. I planned to check the situation in the affected room this morning, but I didn't expect the sketchbook to be gone. So, now I'm not sure if she's looking for the person depicted in the book or not. If she is looking for the person who drew the pictures, then she might be looking for her child." At this point, Ningqiu Shui paused briefly. "Yesterday, when the castle's butler introduced things to us, do you remember?" Junlu Yuan nodded. "Of course I remember." Ningqiu Shui said, "Every time he mentioned the castle's young master, he would immediately fall silent, as if it were a taboo not to be spoken of. Since we entered the castle until now, we have never seen the shadow of that young master. Even last night during dinner, he didn't come. So, he must have encountered something. He might be dead or he might be missing." Hearing this, Junlu Yuan understood. "Brother Qi Shui, are you saying that because the young master of the castle likes to draw, the woman in black subconsciously sees anyone who likes drawing as her own son? That possibility can't be ruled out." Although Ningqiu Shui said this, he had a feeling deep down that things weren't that simple. Based on his understanding of the Crimson Door, the more information you receive in the early stages, the more likely you are to encounter a smoke bomb. The Crimson Door wouldn't let them easily uncover the truth of the story. They arrived at room 215. Many people had already gone inside to search. "Did any of you see an empty sketchbook on the desk in this room?" A short, slightly chubby man standing at the door of room 215 asked. This man's name was Guangyong. Ningqiu Shui remembered him because yesterday he had asked the butler Neil a question. The people standing inside the room all shook their heads, saying they hadn't seen anything inside. Let me rephrase the question. Who was the first person to enter here? A woman standing at the door of room 214 asked. She wore round-framed glasses, giving off an intellectual air. This woman's name was Wen Qingya. She was someone who had entered the 5th Crimson Door before and was this time guiding her friend through the door. Everyone looked at each other. A thin, gaunt man suddenly raised his hand. When everyone's gaze focused on him, he pointed at Ningqiu Shui. He was the first one in. I was the second to arrive. When I got here, there was no one else, only him inside room 215. Everyone immediately looked toward Ningqiu Shui. Moreover, he's in room 216 right next door, very close. Whatever happened in room 215 last night, they must know clearly. The gaunt man continued, his expression certain. Ningqiu Shui looked at him, slightly frowning. Were you the first one in? Wen Qingya adjusted her glasses, staring intently at Ningqiu Shui with a sharp gaze. Ningqiu Shui remained silent for a moment. I am indeed in room 216, but I wasn't the first person to enter room 215 this morning. Wen Qingya raised an eyebrow. How can you prove that? Ningqiu Shui glanced over everyone, as if pondering something, then said, Prove what? Wen Qingya replied, Of course, prove that you weren't the first person to enter room 215. Ningqiu Shui shrugged. I can't prove it. Seeing Ningqiu Shui answer so bluntly, everyone was stunned. Then, Ningqiu Shui added, So, do you have any way to prove that I was the first person to enter room 215? If you have no evidence, yet directly accuse me, is that reasonable? Wen Qingya continued, But you're right next to room 215, so you're very suspicious, aren't you? Junlu Yuan frowned and stepped forward. Is something wrong with you? Targeting Brother Qi Shui as soon as you arrive? Room 214 is also next to room 215. Why don't you suspect the person in room 214? Wen Qingya turned to look at room 214, reluctantly replying, "You're right. Initially, room 214 was also a primary suspect, but sorry, they also had an incident last night." Just like room 215, the person inside the room and the empty sketchbook both disappeared. Ningqiu Shui said calmly, "You all know exactly what happened last night. Instead of suspecting the woman in black who took the picture book, you turn your suspicion on me, with some leading and others following. What do you want?" The skinny man who had previously confirmed with Ningqiu Shui sneered coldly. "I'm afraid someone has ulterior motives and wants to take this opportunity to act against a teammate." Ningqiu Shui nodded slightly. "So you suspect me?" the skinny man said. "I saw you alone in the room with my own eyes. Of course I suspect you." Ningqiu Shui didn't refute him. The skinny man wasn't targeting him without reason. In fact, there were only two people in the corridor at that time, him and this skinny man. From the other's perspective, it was hard not to suspect him. But he wouldn't be as foolish as the other party to directly step forward and accuse. "I'll say 3 points, then ask one question." Ningqiu Shui thought for a moment before speaking, his gaze calm, facing everyone's questioning without showing the slightest panic. First, he's not wrong. At 6:23 this morning, he was the only one in the corridor while I was checking room 215. As he spoke, he pointed at the skinny man. This action stunned everyone present. They thought Ningqiu Shui would say something to clear his name, never expecting him to admit it so bluntly. Second, last night we really heard movement in room 215, but even pressing our ears against the wall, we couldn't hear clearly. That woman in black seemed to be looking for something, and she found it in room 215. It's not impossible that she took the blank picture book on the table. Third, when I entered room 215 this morning, I saw the room had been ransacked. It's very likely someone had been there before I entered. Then I have a question. Room 214 should have had one survivor left. Which of you is from room 214? After saying these 3 things, Ningqiu Shui posed a question. Everyone looked at each other, and for a long time, no one spoke up. What joke is this? Something happened in room 214 last night. How could anyone still be alive? That's right. Ningqiu Shui sensed something was wrong and counted the people present. 12. 4 people were missing. He was startled. Junlu Yuan beside him was also stunned. That's not right. How? How are 4 people missing? He widened his eyes. Did anyone see the person from room 214 this morning? Did he come down for breakfast? Seeing the strange expressions of the two, everyone began to whisper among themselves. I can confirm to you all, no one came down for breakfast. The skinny man spoke up. My room is at the top of the stairs. Because of last night's incident, I didn't sleep and kept watch by the door since early morning. It was past 5:40 then, breakfast hadn't even been served yet. Until I came out, no one passed by my door. And 2 people, why did you just say room 2114 should have had 1 person left? Hearing him say this, sweat beaded on Junlu Yuan's forehead. He said, I didn't sleep last night either. After the woman in black left, I kept watch by the window, looking toward the distant chapel. Later, the woman in black, appearing in the rain, she held a rope, dragging 3 corpses into the chapel. I didn't count wrong. There were only 3 corpses. Everyone felt a chill run down their spines after hearing his words. If he wasn't mistaken, then where had the other person gone? Originally, only 3 people should have died last night, but this morning, 4 people were discovered missing. 1 person had vanished. We can't be sure it's the person from room 214. It could also be the person from room 215. Wen Qingye thought for a moment, staring intently at Junlu Yuan. After all, last night there was heavy wind and rain. It was so far away, and it was dark. He definitely couldn't have seen the faces of those 3 corpses clearly. Damn it, it's only the first night. Does it have to be this bizarre? Someone couldn't help but shudder. The mission required them to survive for 5 days, meaning they had to stay in this castle for at least 4 nights. But on the very first night, 4 people were already gone. If he's not lying, then 3 people are confirmed dead now. And 1 person is missing. No one knows where they went. This woman named Wen Qingye seemed to have some capability, pacing back and forth among the group, organizing the available information. 2 rooms had incidents. The empty sketchbooks were both taken away. The woman in black last night was searching for something, and she had looked through the sketchbook. Therefore, the people in these 2 rooms most likely touched the pen and the sketchbook when inspecting the room last night. Although I can't be completely certain, I can at least deduce a high probability death rule in this crimson door. Do not use the pen in the room to draw in the sketchbook. That woman in black probably won't appear for just one night. She might come every night. Hearing this, many people's faces turned pale. Every night? Good heavens, something so terrifying once isn't enough. Of course, everyone, don't worry too much. First, this is just my speculation. Second, as long as we don't violate the death rule, she can't do anything to us. Wen Qingya seemed very brave. What happened last night didn't leave any psychological shadow on her. All right then, we can't find the other person for now. Let's go down for breakfast. After saying this, she looked deeply at Ningqiu Shui. Amidst everyone's suspicion, this man's composure left a slight impression on her. It had been a long time since she encountered such a companion. In her admiring gaze, there was also a particular wariness. Wen Qingya knew that if someone like this wanted to harm others in the Crimson Door, they might catch people off guard. Everyone went together to the dining room on the first floor. At the dining table, a figure startled them. The lady in black. She seemed to have completely forgotten what happened last night, sitting in the host's seat, quietly eating breakfast. Everyone stood in the corridor watching her, feeling inexplicably creeped out. The lady seemed to notice everyone's gaze. She tilted her head slightly, her pale face breaking into a strange, ghostly smile at them. Then she finished the last piece of bread in her bowl, set down her knife and fork. She stood up and left. Tap, tap, tap. The sound of high heels tapping on the floor gradually faded away, and the slender figure of the madam disappeared into another corridor. Only when she was finally far gone did everyone's anxiously hanging hearts settle back down. A cold wind blew from the dark corridor in the distance, and many realized their backs were already soaked in cold sweat. They went to the dining table one after another, sitting in their seats from last night, silently eating breakfast. The white plaster statue of Jesus Christ still stood quietly there. Ningqiu Shui curiously glanced at the statue. He still didn't understand why a statue of Jesus Christ was placed beside the dining table. If the castle's madam was truly a Christian, wouldn't it be somewhat disrespectful to have their Jesus watching her eat? He pondered this question, but quickly averted his eyes from the statue. Because Ningqiu Shui remembered that the Crimson Door's reminder clearly stated, "Do not stare at it for too long." He didn't know what it referred to. So, the safest way to stay vigilant was not to look at anything for too long. After finishing the meal, everyone discussed their next course of action. Let me keep it brief. Guangyong wiped his mouth with a napkin. I suggest that the rest of us split into 2 groups. One group will try to get the key from the butler, and the other will try to explore the castle's 3rd floor. There might be important clues there. As soon as he finished speaking, a girl immediately objected. Aren't we not allowed to go to the 3rd floor of the castle? The butler already made it clear to us. That woman in black doesn't like strangers going to the 3rd floor. If she catches us there, then... Wen Qingya rubbed her head, but then agreed with Guangyong's proposal. I think so too. That woman in black really doesn't like strangers going to the 3rd floor. If she's still there, we'd likely run into her, and that could be dangerous. However, she paused and changed her tone. That woman goes to the church to pray. We just need to find out when she goes to pray, and we can avoid her. Hearing this, everyone's eyes lit up. Ningqiu Shui also looked at her and Guangyong with slight surprise. It seemed there were quite a few clever people in this door. Wait a moment. Seeing everyone getting excited, Ningqiu Shui spoke up. It's almost 10 o'clock. The butler will come to clean up at 10. We can ask him. Everyone agreed with this suggestion. When the wall clock struck 10, the sound of a cart came from the dark corridor leading to the castle's kitchen. The butler, dressed in a vest and wearing a smile, appeared before everyone. He acted as if he didn't notice the 4 empty seats at the table, politely greeted everyone, put on a pair of clean white gloves, and began clearing the dishes. Everyone exchanged glances, and finally, Guangyong spoke up. "Butler Neil." "What is it, dear guests?" Butler Neil stopped what he was doing, turned around, and looked at Guangyong with a smile on his face. Guangyong avoided looking directly at him, shifting his gaze to the side as he asked, "May I ask when the madam usually prays?" Neil replied, "The madam usually prays at the church from 2 p.m. to 6:30 p.m. Guangyong asked again, "Every day is like this?" Neil's voice suddenly took on a hint of implication. "Not exactly. Sometimes the lady only goes to the church for a bit and returns immediately." Then, as if knowing what everyone was planning, he emphasized, "The lady does not like others going to the 3rd floor." After saying that, he continued cleaning and quickly left. Those sitting around the dining table exchanged glances, sinking into a strange, silent atmosphere. Did he just say the lady in black might come back? It seems so. Damn, doesn't that mean going to the 3rd floor is very dangerous? If she doesn't go to pray and catches us, wouldn't we be caught red-handed? Junlu Yuan saw the fearful expressions on everyone's faces, cleared his throat softly, mustered his courage, and said, "It's not that dangerous. We just need to post a lookout." After splitting into groups, the 6 of us can divide into 2 small teams, 4 people searching for items, 2 standing guard. As soon as we spot the lady in black returning, immediately notify the others to leave the 3rd floor. Everyone looked at Junlu Yuan. His face still held a childishness and restlessness, but his suggestion wasn't bad. "Let's go search for the items." Ning Chu Shui spoke up. "Anyone else coming with us?" The people at the dining table exchanged glances. After a moment, 3 men and 1 woman stood up. "We'll go with you." These 4 shared a room in the ghost dwelling. The 3rd floor must have important clues. The sooner we get these clues, the faster we can figure out what happened in this ancient castle and find a way out. Guangyong said, "All right, then those who don't want to go to the 3rd floor will come with me." Everyone nodded slightly. After finishing lunch, they began planning. Ning Chu Shui and the others first returned to their rooms, observing the distant chapel through the window. Only when a familiar, tall, thin black figure entered the chapel did they take action. Ning Chu Shui and the others went up to the 3rd floor of the castle. Upon entering, everyone felt a slight chill. This wasn't a temperature-related cold, but a ghostly, bone-deep chill. This feeling was as if something terrifying was hiding in a dark corner, watching them. The layout of the castle's 3rd floor was quite complex, winding, with 5 corridors. Moreover, there weren't many windows here, so the lighting was poor. It seemed there were no lights in the corridors, making it very gloomy. Everyone did a preliminary check. The eastern corridor was hung with many paintings. When everyone saw these paintings, they were all startled, because those paintings all depicted the lady in black. Although the lady in these paintings had different postures, their faces all stared out from the canvas. Combined with the gloomy space of the corridor, it created an indescribably eerie feeling. Damn, how narcissistic is this old woman? A young man who often worked out couldn't help rubbing his arms. His body was extremely robust. Even in winter, he often wore just a short-sleeved shirt outdoors. Yet now, inside this ancient castle, he felt an indescribable chill. The girl accompanying him, Su Xiao, said with a laugh, "I've heard women of that age, especially those who aren't satisfied in certain needs, really like healthy young men like you. Liao Jian, how about you go to that old woman's room tonight and give it a try? Maybe if she's pleased, she'll give us a way out." Liao Jian glared at Su Xiao. "Su Xiao, at a time like this, you still have the mood to joke around? You're really..." Su Xiao shot him a sidelong glance and snorted. "Boring. Fine, I'll keep watch for you all. You go look for clues. If anything happens, I'll shout for you." With that, she walked over to the window and stared intently at the chapel outside. Outside the window, the heavy rain continued, and even during the day, the light was very dim. However, just keeping an eye on whether anyone entered or left the chapel wasn't a problem. At Ning Chu Shui's signal, Junlu Yuan also went to stand beside Su Xiao. "You two keep watch for each other. Even though the lady of the house isn't here, this floor might not be safe." The 2 of them acknowledged. The remaining 4 scattered to search for clues in each room. Ning Chu Shui walked to the end of the north corridor, pushed the door open, and a thick cloud of dust billowed into his face. Smelling this, Ning Chu Shui knew this room hadn't been visited for a long time. A preliminary search seemed to yield no useful clues. But just as Ning Chu Shui was about to leave, he suddenly noticed the pattern on the back of the door. This pattern immediately put him on alert. Because the first time he saw this pattern, Ning Chu Shui felt a sense of familiarity. He must have seen this pattern somewhere before. But where? Ning Chu Shui stood still, thinking for a moment, and then suddenly remembered. He had seen this pattern on the back of a door in a painting by the castle's young master. The paintings hanging in the first-floor corridor were all drawn by the castle's young master, depicting himself hiding from something terrifying. And in one of those paintings, the boy was curled up in a corner of a room with a distorted shadow under the crack of the door. The pattern on the back of that door was drawn by the young master. It was this very door. In other words, the young master of the ancient castle had once hidden in this room to escape the pursuit of some monster. Ning Chu Shui carefully observed every part of the room, confirming this was indeed the room from the young master's painting. Could it be? A thought stirred in Ning Chu Shui's mind, as if he had realized something. He hurriedly left the room and went to the other rooms. 1 room, 2 rooms, 3 rooms. As Ning Chu Shui searched these rooms one by one, he discovered that all of them were places where the castle's young master had once hidden, and all these rooms had been depicted in the young master's paintings. He lives on the 3rd floor. The 3rd floor only has him and the castle's lady, maybe also the butler. What is he hiding from? Is he hiding from the castle's lady? That can't be. Now, based on the information the butler revealed, the lady of the castle should have been his mother. Many questions swirled in Ning Chu Shui's mind. Could there be another danger within this Allen castle? While Ning Chu Shui was deep in thought, a blood-curdling scream echoed from another corridor. Ah! It was a man's scream. Hearing the scream, Ning Chu Shui hurriedly ran out of the room towards the source. When he arrived, 2 people had already gathered in front of a room. What happened? Ning Chu Shui asked them. Their faces were pale. Liao Jin trembled as he pointed at the room before them, saying, I don't know. That scream just now came from this room, but when we got here, there was no one inside, and Pang Yunyuan has disappeared too. Pang Yunyuan was another young man who came with them, also a resident of the same ghost dwelling as Liao Jian. Ning Chu Shui stood before the door, carefully observing the room. This room was no different from the ones he had searched before. Almost all of them had appeared in the paintings on the 1st floor corridor. It seemed the young master of the castle had once hidden in every room on the 3rd floor. And now, the man named Pang Yunyuan had vanished within this very room. Hey, what's going on over there? From the other end of the corridor, Su Xiao also approached. Seeing all 3 of them standing before the same room door, their expressions grave and pale, she couldn't help but ask, Pang Yunyuan, just now, disappeared in this room. Liao Jin trembled as he pointed into the room. Disappeared? Su Xiao was surprised. She slowly walked over, standing beside Ning Chu Shui, and peered into the room with him. A grown man like that, with the windows closed, how could he just vanish suddenly? Su Xiao muttered. Why aren't you guarding the window? Ning Chu Shui asked. Su Xiao snorted. Isn't it because of what happened with you guys earlier? I heard the scream and ran over here. Don't worry, Lu Yuan is guarding the window. If there's any problem, he'll call us. Ning Chu Shui frowned but suppressed the discomfort in his heart. Jun Lu Yuan needed to experience these things firsthand sooner or later. Letting him be alone for a while was good, a form of training. Moreover, he had lent Jun Lu Yuan something to protect his life. It wouldn't be easy for something to happen. Thinking this, Ning Chu Shui stepped into the room and began inspecting the scene. Seeing Ning Chu Shui enter, the other 3 followed. However, after searching for a while, they found nothing. This room seemed no different from the others. No signs of a struggle, nothing unusual. So, what had Pang Yunyuan encountered that made him scream so terribly, only to vanish without a trace? Everyone was puzzled. At that moment, Ning Chu Shui suddenly thought of something. He stepped back outside the door, looked at the room's location, and realized this room was very close to the main corridor outside. It was the first room when entering this smaller corridor from the main one. Did anyone see him earlier? Ning Shui asked Liao Jian and the others. They shook their heads. No, the three of us split up to search 3 different small corridors for clues in the rooms. We only came here after Pang Yunyuan screamed. Ning Shui nodded. I understand. Su Xiao beside him couldn't help but ask, What did you figure out? Ning Shui said to the 3 of them, Do you all remember? Luo Yuan said last night he saw the black-clothed lady dragging 3 corpses, but this morning we found 4 people missing? The 3 nodded. They argued about this very matter this morning, so they remembered it clearly. Su Xiao seemed to realize something, her lively eyes darting around. You mean, the missing person from room 214 or 215 is just like Pang Yunyuan? Ning Shui replied, Correct. The reason they encountered trouble must be the same. Hearing this, the 3 immediately paid close attention. What reason? Ning Shui led them out of the room, pointed at the room's location and said, From the moment we started checking the rooms until now, at least. Everyone thought for a moment. Su Xiao was the first to react, exclaiming in shock, You mean he found something in this room? A glint flashed in Ning Shui's eyes. Exactly. He must have discovered something in this room, and it captured his attention, causing him to stare fixedly at it. Hearing Ning Shui say this, everyone felt a chill run down their spines. They immediately recalled the Crimson Door's reminder. Note 2, do not stare at it for too long. Oh God! Oh God! Liao Jian cried out twice, his body going slightly limp. Earlier, the 4 of them had split up into 4 different corridors. If it hadn't been Pang Yunyuan who encountered that thing, but him, wouldn't he be the one who disappeared now? Maybe we should go back? This place is too strange. Pang Yunyuan, a living person, just vanished mysteriously like that. Besides, we still haven't found any useful information. Su Xiao shot a disdainful glance at the muttering Liao Jian. Liao Jian, why are you so cowardly? We've already been through several doors. If hiding worked, the Crimson Door wouldn't have so many deaths. In my opinion, we should take this chance to turn the entire 3rd floor upside down. Liao Jian hurriedly waved his hands. No, Xiao, you're so brave. You go turn it upside down for me. I'll go guard the window. With that, he hastily left, heading toward the main corridor. However, not long after, Liao Jian's scream rang out again. Everyone was startled. Could it be? Liao Jian had also encountered trouble? They hurriedly ran to the main corridor and saw Liao Jian at the window at the end. He hadn't disappeared. He was just sitting slumped on the floor, leaning against the wall, his legs kicking wildly, his eyes fixed on the 5th eastern corridor. Jun Luo Yuan stood beside him. Though not as terrified, he wasn't much better off either. His small face was pale, and his legs kept trembling uncontrollably. What happened? Did the lady come back? Su Xiao hurriedly asked. Liao Jian shook his head frantically, pointing toward the 5th corridor but unable to speak. The 3 immediately rushed to their side, but when they looked toward the eastern 5th corridor, they too were horrified by the sight before them. On that corridor, water was seeping from the portraits of the black-robed ladies hanging on the wall. Drip, drip, the droplets gradually gathered into wet streaks, trickling down the wall, and the black-robed ladies in the paintings were also changing. Their eyes were slowly moving, as if coming to life, all staring intently at the 5 people by the window. Run! Ning Shui felt the threat of death, and without hesitation, immediately dragged Jun Lu Yuan as they frantically ran toward the staircase. The other 3 followed closely behind. While being dragged along by Ning Shui, Jun Lu Yuan couldn't help but glance back. That single glance nearly scared his soul out of his body. Jun Lu Yuan saw that outside the window they had just been guarding, a human face had appeared at some unknown time, staring right at them. That face was deathly pale, with hollow, resentful eyes and bright red lipstick. This was the black-robed lady who had just been praying in the church. She stared at their retreating backs, her face revealing that characteristic expression of a smile that wasn't quite a smile, and then she pulled the window open. Brother Shui, it's chasing us. Junlu Yuan screamed in terror. Everyone followed his shout and saw the tall, thin woman in black holding a blood-stained sickle, quickly pursuing them. Seeing this, how could anyone dare hesitate? They ran like mad toward the staircase. But as they ran, they realized something was wrong. The corridor was originally less than 50 meters long, but they had been running for a minute and a half and still hadn't reached the end. Looking back, everyone saw the black-robed woman with the sickle getting closer and closer. The bloody stench from the sickle almost hit their faces. "We're done," their hearts sank. If this continued, in less than a minute, they would be caught and hacked to death by the black-robed woman behind them. "Dage, if you have any ghost artifacts, hurry up and use them. If you don't use them now, you won't get another chance. As long as we break this ghost wall, we can escape." Liao Jian cried out desperately. "Su Xiao, if I remember correctly, you have a coffin nail, right? Why aren't you using it?" Whoosh! A coffin nail was thrown into Liao Jian's hand. "All right, Liao Jian, this coffin nail is yours now. Hurry up and go nail it." Su Xiao winked at Liao Jian while running, making an encouraging gesture. Liao Jian stared wide-eyed at the coffin nail in his hand, feeling an overwhelming urge to strangle Su Xiao. "Brother Chu Shui, we can't keep going like this. Don't worry about me. Just run ahead." Junlu Yuan struggled to keep up with Ning Chu Shui, panting heavily. His physique was the weakest among everyone. If Ning Chu Shui hadn't been constantly pulling him along, he would have already fallen behind and been caught and hacked by the black-robed woman. Dead long ago, Junlu Yuan spoke while returning the red scissors Ning Chu Shui had handed him. It wasn't that he was giving up hope of survival easily, but because he had been bedridden with illness for a long time. Although the ghost dwelling had erased his sickness, the accumulated weakness remained. At this moment, he was nearing his limit. If things continued like this, once he collapsed, he would become a burden to Ning Shui. "Hold on a little longer." Unlike the panic of the others, Ning Chu Shui's voice was exceptionally calm. Junlu Yuan looked somewhat surprised at Ning Chu Shui's back. He bit his lip, enduring the pain as if his lungs were about to burst, and ran after Ning Chu Shui. When they had run another dozen or so meters, Ning Chu Shui suddenly stopped, drew the sharp red scissors, and stabbed them forcefully into the flower pot beside the wall. Thump! The flower pot shattered, and a stream of thick, viscous blood flowed from the mud. "Run!" Ning Chu Shui shouted loudly, saying no more, and pulled the gasping Junlu Yuan toward the staircase. This time, the wall-beating ghost vanished. Everyone reached the top of the stairs before the woman in black could catch up, but the sight before them made them stop abruptly. They could go no further. The butler Neil, dressed in a black vest, was standing on the stairs with a smile, silently watching them. After a brief moment, the woman in black arrived behind everyone. She raised her scythe high, preparing to swing down and cut everyone in half. At this critical moment, the butler standing on the stairs spoke again. "Madam, it is now prayer time in the chapel." Neil's words caused the scythe blade, poised to descend upon everyone's heads, to halt. Her pale face with its forced smile faced Neil for a long time. Finally, the woman in black slowly lowered her scythe, turned, and walked away. Seeing her finally leave, the 5 people, whose hearts had nearly leapt from their throats, finally calmed down a little. Junlu Yuan lay prone on the ground, gasping for breath, his limbs trembling, unsure if it was from exhaustion or fear. Just moments ago, they had been a hair's breadth from death. Among the 5, only 2 possessed ghost artifacts. Ghost artifacts were not easy to obtain. The lucky ones might get one from the very first Crimson Door. The unlucky ones might not have a single ghost artifact even by the 5th or 6th Crimson Door. Madam does not like strangers on the 3rd floor. Butler Neil, standing on the stairs, repeated this cold statement once more. Then he turned and walked down the stairs step by step. Seeing him about to leave, Ning Chu Shui suddenly spoke up and asked, "Neil, do you know where the young master has gone?" Earlier they had asked the butler about the castle's young master, but at that time Neil seemed not to hear, choosing to ignore the question. But this time, after Ning Chu Shui called his name, Neil no longer ignored the question. He stopped, remained silent for about a minute and a half, then replied in a strange tone, "Yes, where has the young master gone? How odd." Having said that, he left. Ning Chu Shui, hearing Neil's answer, frowned. He always felt that Neil was hiding some crucial piece of information in his words. Everyone quickly returned to the second floor, finally feeling a bit more at ease. Oh my God, you guys didn't see it. That black-clothed woman's scythe was just 1 centimeter away from my forehead. We're really not dead? Nope, I checked. Your butt is still warm. Get lost, Su Xiao Xiao. You dare scold me. Seeing everyone's attitude toward Su Xiao Xiao, Ning Chu Shui was somewhat surprised. Because Su Xiao Xiao was a very beautiful girl, in the outside world she would definitely be very attractive to the opposite sex. But for some reason, the men around her seemed to have no feelings for her. As if sensing Ning Chu Shui's gaze, Liao Jian sneered, "If this girl takes off her skirt, what you've got might not be bigger than hers." Ning Chu Shui immediately understood, so Su Xiao Xiao was a cross-dressing expert. What are you talking about? What's big or not? Don't say such things in front of outsiders, it's disgusting. Su Xiao Xiao acted a bit shy, making the men shudder. But how did you know that flower pot was problematic? After everyone rested for a while, Su Xiao Xiao retracted her gaze, switching to a more serious tone. As she spoke, Su Xiao Xiao couldn't help but look toward Ning Chu Shui, as if wanting an answer from this man. Ghosts hitting the wall always have a key point. The corridor ahead of us clearly only had 1 flower pot, yet we passed it several times, so I guess that flower pot must be problematic. This was actually an obvious point. Everyone hadn't noticed because the situation just now was too tense. All their attention was focused on the black-clothed woman with the scythe behind them. It's just that I don't know why the butler of this castle helped us. Recalling what had just happened, Ning Chu Shui gradually sank into thought. Something's not right. Junlu Yuan had just breathed a sigh of relief when he suddenly grew suspicious. Didn't the 6 from Guangyang go look for the butler? Then why did the butler appear just now without them? Liao Jian replied irritably, "What else could it be? They just didn't find him. This butler doesn't seem human, appearing and disappearing like a ghost." The blonde-haired boy Yang Yang beside them said fearfully, "Do you think maybe they were already killed by the butler?" Su Xiao Xiao shook her head. "How could that be? There were 6 of them. If something really happened, it's impossible for all of them to die." This time, Su Xiao Xiao didn't use her fake voice, but returned to her real one. A deep, thick male voice. Everyone listened, looking at her with strange expressions. The difference between Su Xiao's voice and appearance was truly too great. As for that point, let's wait and see. After what they had just experienced, no one dared to casually go to the castle's 3rd floor. Ning Chu Shui was silent for a moment before saying, "I want to go check the castle's main gate. Is anyone coming with me?" Everyone was a bit curious. "The main gate of the castle? What are you going there for?" Ning Chu Shui shrugged. "Nothing much, just going to take a look. I'm free anyway." Junlu Yuan was the first to stand beside Ning Chu Shui. Though he said nothing, his action made his stance clear. Su Xiao Xiao's eyes lit up as if pondering something. She looked at Ning Chu Shui and said, "Xiao Jie, I'll go with you." Su Xiao Xiao had switched back to her clear, pleasant feminine voice. After speaking, she turned and glared at Liao Jian and the other person. "You two, don't go running around. If that woman in black catches you, you're definitely dead." The two recalled what they had just experienced on the 3rd floor and couldn't help but shudder. All right, we know. You two go on. Go quickly and come back quickly." The 3 of them, Ning Chu Shui and the others, headed toward the main gate of the castle they had entered earlier. Along the way, Su Xiao Xiao curiously assessed Junlu Yuan and Ning Chu Shui, then asked Ning Chu Shui, "Xiao Ge, are you a guide for newcomers through the door?" Ning Chu Shui gave an affirmative hum. Su Xiao Xiao's eyes brightened. "Then doesn't that mean you're a big shot who's already passed the 5th or even the 6th door?" Ning Chu Shui thought for a moment and asked, "I don't have that kind of ability. I'm just a newcomer who's passed 3 doors." Su Xiao Xiao looked skeptical. "No way. Absolutely impossible." Ning Chu Shui smiled slightly and didn't continue arguing about the matter. They quickly arrived at the main gate of the castle. The door was tightly shut, and outside the heavy sound of rain could be heard. Seeing this door, Ning Chu Shui slapped his forehead and said with a laugh, "I knew something felt off. The mission is to have us find the main gate of the villa. The castle is just one building within the villa. It's just because we appeared inside the castle that we inadvertently overlooked this detail. He had found it very strange earlier. Why would the butler go to close the main gate of the villa when it was raining? And why would there be water pooled at his feet when he returned? Now he understood. At that time, the butler wasn't just closing the castle door, he was also going to close the villa gate. Ning Shui walked again to the corridor, hung with paintings drawn by the young master of the castle. Stepping into this corridor once more, Ning Shui felt an indescribable chill. It was as if countless ants were crawling from his heels up his back, as if something was staring at him from behind those portraits. But when Ning Shui carefully focused on the sensation, it vanished. He took the paintings down from the wall. Since the paintings were hung, removing them didn't require much effort. Behind the painting was a cold, solid wall. Ning Shui tapped it with his hand. The sound basically stopped at the surface. This indicated that the wall behind the painting was solid, with nothing hidden inside. Then, the problem lies with the painting itself. Holding the heavy painting in his hands, Ning Shui didn't detect anything unusual, so he hung it back up. His gaze swept over these paintings as he quickly reviewed the content of each one. "Hey, Xiaoge, do you guys feel like something is staring at us?" Su Xiaoxiao suddenly spoke up, startling Junlu Yuan beside her into a yelp. Ning Shui nodded, indicating that he had felt it too. Junlu Yuan warily looked around and whispered, "Could it be that these portraits of the little master are the problem? I feel like if you stare at these paintings for about 10 seconds, you get the sensation of being watched." Hearing him say that, Su Xiaoxiao immediately fixed her gaze on one of the paintings. About 10 seconds later, she suddenly averted her eyes, her voice trembling slightly. Yes, that's exactly the feeling. You can't stare at them for too long. The warning on our crimson door, it's very likely referring to these paintings." Junlu Yuan's eyes lit up, but then he seemed hesitant. "But earlier, when we searched the rooms on the 3rd floor, those rooms clearly didn't have any paintings, right? Could it be these paintings can move on their own?" Su Xiaoxiao fell silent. There was indeed a problem here. If the rule is not to stare at the little master's paintings, but Pang Yunyuan's room, where he disappeared earlier, had no paintings, then how did he vanish? And the two people who disappeared earlier from rooms 214 and 215 were also strange, because their rooms didn't have the little master's paintings either. Could it be that their disappearances have nothing to do with the paintings? Just when they thought they had found a crucial clue, they hit another dead end. Ning Shui vaguely felt that during their earlier search of the 3rd floor rooms, he had noticed many things that were very off. This feeling arose when he discovered that the pattern behind the door of one room was identical to the pattern behind the door in the little master's painting. But it was just a fleeting thought. Ning Shui temporarily set aside his inner doubts and continued searching along the corridor displaying the paintings. As long as their gazes didn't linger on the same painting for too long, they wouldn't feel watched. Ning Shui carefully examined the corridor and suddenly discovered the 7th painting in an inconspicuous dark corner. The placement of this painting was slightly off, coincidentally hidden in the darkest corner, and the painting itself used a lot of black pigment, making it very difficult to spot. Ning Shui stepped in front of the painting, looked at its contents, and his body trembled slightly. This painting was also left by the castle's little master. The crude brushstrokes were almost identical. But unlike the previous 6 paintings, in this one, the little master's room had been invaded by a pair of black arms. 2 pale arms were gripping the door, seemingly desperate to force their way in. The little master inside the room was using all his strength to hold the door shut. He seemed terrified of something outside his room door. My God, what on earth did this little master encounter that was so terrifying? It couldn't be the lady, could it? Even though the lady is very hostile to outsiders like us, she is, after all, the little master's mother. As the saying goes, even a vicious tiger doesn't eat its own cubs. She had no reason to harm the young master, right? from the vague words and the butler's earlier information, it wasn't hard to see that the young master and the lady were indeed mother and son. Therefore, the lady hunting down and killing the young master seemed highly unlikely. Could it be the butler? Such a thought suddenly popped into Ningqiu Shui's head. Not long ago, when he asked the butler where the young master had gone, the butler's reply was very suggestive. Thinking about it carefully, it seemed the butler was also looking for the young master, and had been searching for a very long time. Ningqiu Shui couldn't help but look back at the young master's seventh painting. Looking at the black arms and the pale white hands, an image suddenly flashed in Ningqiu Shui's mind that sent a chill down his spine. It was when they were eating. The butler in the black vest pushed the food cart over, always wearing a pair of white gloves. Could it be the shadow that wanted to kill the young master was actually the castle's butler? Why would he do that? But, speaking of the lady and the young master, I thought of something else. Su Xiao crossed his arms over his chest, strolling lightly down the corridor. Ningqiu Shui and Jun Luyuan looked at him. What are you thinking? Su Xiao slowed his pace and asked a very ordinary question they had overlooked. If this ancient castle already has a mother and a son, then where is the father? His question startled Ningqiu Shui and Jun Luyuan. That's right. There's a mother, there's a son, so there must be a father. But the castle's butler never seems to have mentioned anything related to the young master's father. Jun Luyuan muttered to himself, seriously pondering the issue, his gaze growing sharper by the moment. Without a father, how could the mother give birth to a child? But if there is a father, where is he now? Why didn't the butler say a single word about the young master's father? As they explored the ancient castle, not only did they fail to resolve the doubts in their hearts, but the questions only multiplied. These questions were like an egg beater, churning their minds into a chaotic mess. Let's head back, Ningqiu Shui said. The longer they stayed in this corridor, the heavier the bone-piercing chill clinging to their bodies felt. No one knew if something terrifying would happen if they continued to wait. At least they had memorized almost all the contents of the paintings. As they left, Ningqiu Shui deliberately glanced at one painting. It was the painting with the clear pattern behind the door in the previous room. He still felt something was off, as if there was a particular detail he had missed. After a moment of silence, Ningqiu Shui shook his head and followed the other two back to the castle's main hall. It was already past 4 in the afternoon. Everyone waited a while longer, and Guangyong, Wen Qingya, and the others returned from another corridor. Their complexions weren't good either, and Ningqiu Shui and the others noticed that among those who returned, one person was missing. What happened? Why is one person missing? Su Xiao yawned. He had been waiting for this group to gather. Guangyong sat down to one side, his expression grim. Something unexpected happened. Someone suddenly went missing. Hearing the words missing, the expressions of Su Xiao and the others changed. Another disappearance. It was only the second day, and 3 of them had vanished without a trace. What's with your reactions? What did you also have someone go missing? Wen Qingya frowned. She counted and saw that Ningqiu Shui's group was also down to 5 people. That's right. Su Xiao nodded slightly. When we went to the 3rd floor, Pang Yunyuan also disappeared inside a room. The window of that room showed no signs of being broken. There was no secret passage, nothing at all. It was as if he evaporated in there. As soon as Su Xiao finished speaking, everyone's faces grew even more grim. They all felt just how bizarre this world within the Crimson Door was. A living person right before their eyes could just vanish. Even if they were killed by that terrifying woman in black, at least a corpse would be left behind. Where had those who suddenly disappeared in the ancient castle gone? Did you find any clues on the 3rd floor? The atmosphere was a bit heavy, so Guangyong asked Su Xiao. No useful clues. There were only self-portraits of the lady in black hanging in the eastern corridor. When we got close, the lady in black in the painting would stare at us, and then start leaking water. Right after that, the lady in black, who should have been praying in the church, crawled in through the window. If Brother Chu Shui hadn't broken the ghost wall in time, I'm afraid we would all be dead on the 3rd floor. There must be important secrets there, but we can only think of a way to go back tomorrow. Su Xiaoxiao didn't hide this, because hiding these things was pointless. If he had obtained some crucial clue, he might have concealed it a bit, trying to squeeze more benefits from the others. But the problem now was that the eeriness of the castle had exceeded their expectations. After 2 days here, not only had they not obtained any important clues, but they were left with many unanswered questions. "What about you?" Guangyong sighed. "We searched everywhere we could on the first floor of the castle, couldn't find the butler, so we went to the kitchen." At this point, Guangyong's expression darkened. That kitchen hasn't been used at all, at least not in recent months. Dust everywhere. The water in the pipes was stagnant, rusty brown water, rats and spiderwebs all over the place. "There are no servants in this castle at all. The food provided to us wasn't made in that kitchen." His words startled Ning Shui and the others. "Damn it, the second day is almost over and we haven't gotten any useful information. Plus we've lost 6 people." The skinny man who had earlier confirmed Ning Shui's kick to the wall cursed under his breath a few times. His face was already somewhat distorted. Clearly, during the search for the butler just now, he had encountered some terrifying things. Everyone fell silent for a moment. Then Ning Shui slowly spoke up, revealing a fact that made them even more uneasy. "Ah, right, there's one more thing I haven't told you all. In 5 days, we must leave not this castle, but the villa. We currently have 3 urgent problems to solve. First, where is the main gate of the villa? Second, how do we leave the castle without getting wet in the rain to reach the main gate of the villa? Third, how do we obtain the key to open the main gate of the villa?" Many puzzles swirled in everyone's minds. Soon, it was time for dinner. Ning Shui and the others didn't dare be careless. Those who had ghost artifacts held them ready, and those who didn't were prepared to run at any moment. At dinner, the lady would also appear. During the day, thanks to the butler, the lady hadn't taken action against them, but that didn't mean the night would be the same. Quickly, the butler arrived at the dining room first. He stood beside the plaster statue of Jesus, smiling at everyone. "The lady will finish her prayers soon. Please rest assured, after the lady returns, I will serve you a sumptuous dinner." After speaking, he stood motionless as before. Ning Shui once again observed the butler up close. The light clearly illuminated the cross hanging on his neck. Ning Shui stared at the cross, his eyes flickering slightly. The butler wore this around his neck. Did it mean he was also a Christian believer like the lady? If he was a believer, why didn't he go to the chapel to pray during the day? Not long after, the sound of high heels echoed from the dark corridor in the distance. Click, click, click. Everyone's hearts immediately tensed. They all looked towards the end of the corridor. The tall, gaunt lady in black emerged from the darkness, walking slowly forward. Her pale, wrinkled face offered a polite smile to everyone. Then she took her seat at the head of the table. As for what happened in the afternoon, she seemed to have completely forgotten. She showed no displeasure towards Ning Shui and the others, nor any hint of killing intent. At this moment, although the lady still looked very... "Please, madam and guests, wait a moment. Dinner will be right out." Butler Neil gave a slight bow to everyone, then turned and politely left. About 3 to 5 minutes later, he returned pushing a food cart, wearing a pair of pristine white gloves. Nothing seemed out of the ordinary. The aroma of the food immediately filled the dining room, and only then did everyone realize how hungry they were. It must be said, although this castle was gloomy, the food was abundant. Some of the dishes served here couldn't necessarily be bought with money even outside. "Butler Neil, there's still room here. Won't you sit down and eat with us?" The butler smiled. "No, I have already sampled this feast. It was prepared for the lady and her guests." Ning Shui nodded slightly, then suddenly asked, "Butler Neil, are there ghosts in this ancient castle?" This time, the butler said nothing, as if he hadn't heard Ning Shui's question. The atmosphere at the table gradually grew strange. Some people kept signaling with their eyes for Ning Shui to stop talking. He, of course, also sensed the danger and promptly fell silent, lowering his head to eat. Based on what was shown during the day, This NPC butler within the Crimson Door was definitely not the ghost responsible for hunting and killing them. Therefore, he must be here to provide crucial information and appropriate protection for those who entered this Crimson Door. This was enough to prove that the difficulty of this Crimson Door would be somewhat high, which is why the Crimson Door provided an NPC like this butler to reduce the difficulty of the story behind the door. Of course, the Crimson Door wasn't running a charity. The protection the butler could offer them was relatively limited. There might even be a limit on the number of times. Ningqiu Shui didn't want to waste this opportunity unless absolutely necessary. After the meal, the lady went upstairs again, just like last night. After she left, Ningqiu Shui waited until the sound of her high heels disappeared on the third floor before asking the butler the question he had always wanted to ask. "Butler Neil, may I ask where the young master's father is?" The butler, who was clearing the table, suddenly stopped and turned to look at Ningqiu Shui seriously. However, the butler didn't seem inclined to answer this question. He only glanced distractedly at the plaster statue beside the dining table, gave it a look, and then pushed the dining cart away. Ningqiu Shui stared at the plaster statue of Jesus, as if pondering something. Seeing the butler didn't answer the question, everyone else also sighed in disappointment. "Looks like we can only get this far today," Guangyong sighed. "Tonight, everyone be careful. As Qingya said, who knows if that woman in black will come every time it gets dark." After he finished speaking, Wen Qingya also nodded. "That's right, that woman in black is very likely to come tonight. Although we still can't completely confirm the death rule, it's best if everyone doesn't touch the blank picture book and the pen on the table. We have 10 people left now. The situation isn't too bad. But if we lose 4 people again tonight, like last night, the remaining 6 will probably have a hard time." Wen Qingya's words sent a chill down everyone's spine. That was indeed true. Once tonight ended, they would have only been through 2 days. The more people died, the more dangerous it became for those remaining, unless only the last person was left. Time gradually slipped into the night, and everyone returned to their own rooms. Junlu Yuan was a bit distracted because of what happened during the day. He took off his jacket and was about to go wash his face when he saw Ningqiu Shui standing alone by the table near the window, staring intently at the blank picture book and the pen on the table. "Brother Chu Shui, what are you doing?" Junlu Yuan saw Ningqiu Shui pick up the pen, and his heart suddenly pounded. Not long ago, Wen Qingya had warned them not to touch the things on the table, as it might bring disaster upon them at night. In his eyes, Ningqiu Shui's action right now was no different from suicide. "Brother Chu Shui, you... The things on our table have already been touched by someone else." Ningqiu Shui's gaze was sharp as he spoke slowly. Ever since experiencing the second Crimson Door, he had always maintained a high level of vigilance towards the other companions who entered the Crimson Door with him. Faced with a life-and-death calamity, the human heart was the most easily shaken thing. Hearing Ningqiu Shui's words, Junlu Yuan also felt his heart tighten. Since their room door could only be locked from the inside, if no one was in the room, anyone outside wanting to enter would face no obstacles whatsoever. Thinking of this, Junlu Yuan immediately went to Ningqiu Shui's side, looking at the sketchbook and pen on the table. "Brother Chu Shui, how did you know someone touched our things? The pen cap's position is wrong. This morning before going out, I deliberately adjusted the pen cap's position. The person who entered our room used our pen. Although they put everything back in its original place, the position is incorrect. Originally, the pen cap was pointing towards that line. Now it's off by at least 1 centimeter. Ningqiu Shui explained to Junlu Yuan, who was stunned upon hearing it, feeling both shocked and a chill running down his spine. Someone had sneaked into their room and used their pen? Used the pen for what? Of course, to draw or write. So, Junlu Yuan's gaze stopped on the sketchbook, his heart sinking to the bottom. Chapter 146, Confronting the Horror. Just as Ningqiu Shui had suspected, he carefully flipped through the empty sketchbook in front of Junlu Yuan, and indeed found a very faint pen mark inside one of the pages. Seeing the trace on it, Junlu Yuan only felt his hands and feet turn icy cold. This could be the trigger for death at night. Damn it! Who could be so despicable, harming even their own people? Junlu Yuan clenched his fists, grinding his teeth. After all, he was young, still harboring the impulsiveness of youth. Upon learning someone wanted to harm them, Junlu Yuan only felt a raging fire blaze in his chest. Brother Chushui, what should we do now? Angry as he was, Junlu Yuan didn't lose his composure. He knew survival was the top priority. If they couldn't survive tonight, then forget about finding the culprit who harmed them. Swap. Ning Shui stared at the sketchbook in front of him, uttering a single word. He opened the door and quickly went to the room opposite. This room was 208, unoccupied. After entering the room, Ning Shui swapped the sketchbook and pen with those in room 208. Then he returned to his own room. The two carefully checked the sketchbook, confirming there were no traces inside, then placed the sketchbook and pen on the table, finally letting out a slight sigh of relief. Will it work? Junlu Yuan was still a bit worried. After all, this concerned their life and death. Ning Shui shook his head. Whether it works or not, only tonight will tell. Consider it clutching at straws. There's no other way. Such was the way of the Crimson Door. Once someone wants to use the rules to harm you, it's very hard to guard against. After washing up, the two lay on their respective beds, silently waiting for that shadow to arrive. Tonight, no one could sleep. They couldn't sleep. The lady in black could knock on the window at any moment, like a ticking time bomb hanging in everyone's hearts. Brother Chu Shui, who do you think is trying to harm us? Junlu Yuan looked at the ceiling, asking Ning Chu Shui. He didn't answer his question. Since Ning Chu Shui didn't know the answer either, Junlu Yuan added, Is it Guangyong and Wen Qingya? At first, I thought they were good people, even reminding everyone not to touch the pen and the empty sketchbook at night. But now it seems they might very well be the ones trying to harm us. After all, as long as we don't check the pen and the empty sketchbook, the traces they left won't be discovered. Ning Shui pondered for a moment before saying, At first glance, Guangyong and Wen Qingya are highly suspicious, but personally, I lean toward the idea that they are just like us, victims. Hearing this, Junlu Yuan let out an ah, not fully understanding Ning Shui's meaning. They are also victims? Ning Shui took out his phone to check the time, then explained to Junlu Yuan, The Crimson Door has a 1/10 rule, and the activation condition is... We have a total of 16 people. To activate this rule, only one person can remain. The other 15 must die. Otherwise, this rule cannot be triggered. Therefore, they have no motive to commit a crime, because whether there are few people or many, the difficulty of facing the Crimson Door remains the same. However, due to the reduced number of people, the actual danger smaller groups face becomes even greater. So, they have no reason to kill us. If it were a solo act, there's even less time for that. Previously, they were always together and might have only separated briefly when checking rooms. That time wouldn't be enough for them to run to the second floor, do something bad, and then return. Therefore, I think they are not the ones trying to harm us. It's very likely they are also victims like us. The only question is whether they realized it tonight. If they didn't notice, the trouble will be big. Hearing Ning Shui's clear reasoning, Junlu Yuan suddenly understood. He gave Ning Shui a thumbs up, genuinely impressed from the bottom of his heart. Thinking of this wasn't difficult, but to deduce it so quickly required a certain level of ability. But if it's not them, then who is it? The butler, the lady of the house, or those who have gone missing? Junlu Yuan felt somewhat confused. After thinking for a while, he ruled out the butler and the lady of the house. The butler currently seemed to be at least a neutral NPC and wouldn't harm them. As for the lady of the house, if she had such ability, the first night wouldn't have only had 3 deaths. So, that only leaves those who have gone missing? But how is that possible? The more Junlu Yuan thought about it, the more tangled his thoughts became. In the end, he couldn't help but sigh. Beside him, Ning Shui was also thinking about the events of the day. He was still wondering what was the small detail he had overlooked. This feeling first appeared in the room on the 3rd floor. I saw the pattern behind the door and remembered a painting of the young master in the 1st floor hallway. Ning Shui carefully recalled this process. Unconsciously, his attention focused on that painting. In the painting, the young master was hiding in the room, motionless. The pattern behind the door was very clear. Ning Chu Shui stared at the painting in his memory, wondering if the pattern behind the door held any meaning, when a bone-piercing chill. Fear suddenly spread throughout his entire body. At this moment, Ning Chu Shui clearly sensed the threat of death. He wanted to open his eyes, but couldn't. In the pitch-black world, only that painting remained. It kept growing larger and larger. Then, the child squatting in the corner of the room in the painting gradually began to move. It slowly turned around, looking toward Ning Chu Shui. He discovered that this child had a pair of blood-red eyes. These were not human eyes. It was at this very moment that Ning Chu Shui finally realized what he had missed. Earlier, in the first-floor hallway, he had only glanced at the paintings hanging on the wall. How could he possibly remember the patterns behind the door in the painting so clearly? It wasn't that he had an extraordinary memory, but that the paintings in the first-floor hallway were problematic. Recalling the Crimson Door's warning now, Ning Chu Shui finally understood the meaning of "do not stare at it for too long." Facing it doesn't necessarily require using your eyes. Observing it in your memory is also a form of facing it. No wonder Pang Yunyuan mysteriously disappeared on the third floor earlier. He hadn't encountered anything terrifying in the room at all. Instead, he had also realized that the room he was in resembled one of the rooms in the paintings from the first-floor hallway. Then, he had faced it in his memory for a long time. At this moment, Ning Chu Shui felt his entire body turn ice-cold, almost unable to move. The child in the painting opened its mouth, revealing a terrifying smile, then step-by-step advanced toward Ning Chu Shui. Watching it get closer and closer, Ning Chu Shui's consciousness grew increasingly hazy. Just as his consciousness was about to sink into an endless river of ice, a strange sound rang in his ears, pulling Ning Chu Shui back to reality. The child before him suddenly let out a resentful shriek, stretching out its pale hands, wanting to grab Ning Chu Shui. But Ning Chu Shui's body was covered by a thick layer of fresh blood, upon which the faint curses of an old woman could be heard. This woman's voice, it was the spirit medium from the second Crimson Door. When it touched the layer of blood on Ning Chu Shui's body, the child let out a miserable scream. Eek! Eek! Then Ning Chu Shui finally opened his eyes. He abruptly sat up in bed, his body ice-cold, like a dead person. Jun Luyuan beside him stared at him, his eyes filled with terror. Brother Chu Shui, are you all right?" Ning Chu Shui gasped for breath, taking a long while to calm down before asking Jun Luyuan beside him, "What happened to me just now?" Jun Luyuan said in a trembling voice, "Just now, your body suddenly became very pale, translucent, as if you were about to disappear. And you seemed to want to scream, but stopped as soon as you opened your mouth." Hearing this, Ning Chu Shui subconsciously reached to touch the ancient book on his chest. Inside, a patch felt sticky. Indeed, the ancient book had saved him. In the bizarre world behind the Crimson Door, ghost artifacts were always an important tool. After all, as humans, it's impossible to always be flawless. And the greatest effect of a ghost artifact is that it can increase a person's likelihood of making mistakes. If he hadn't had this book today, he probably would have died already. "Ah, the little master of the old castle wants to kill us too. This whole family are all evil, huh?" Ning Chu Shui thought to himself. He took the ancient book out from his chest. Half of its pages were already stained red with blood. He knew the number of uses for this ghost artifact was almost exhausted. Bai Xiaoxiao had once told Ning Chu Shui that the more powerful a ghost artifact, the more limited its number of uses. Ghost artifacts of the level of the ancient book in his hand, or even higher, would not have more than 3 uses. In other words, this ancient book only had one final use left. His red scissors were also an extraordinary ghost artifact, but for now, he had temporarily given them to Jun Luyuan for self-defense. "It seems I must be even more careful," Ning Chu Shui reminded himself inwardly. Currently, he had uncovered 4 important killing rules within the old castle. 1. Do not stare at the painting on the first-floor corridor for too long. 2. Do not leave any traces in the blank sketchbook in the room. 3. Do not casually enter the 3rd floor of the castle. 4. Do not get wet in the rain. In the following days, as long as they did not violate these 4 rules, the danger would not be too great. Of course, this is with the ultimate goal of surviving until the 5th day. In reality, they couldn't just aim to survive until the 5th day. They also had to find the main gate of the Monica Villa and the key to unlock the large gate. Otherwise, the 5 days would pass quickly, and that would be their doomsday. And during the process of searching for the key, they were bound to encounter unforeseen dangers. The 2 of them closed their eyes to rest. By midnight, the frantic knocking on the window sounded again. Most people in the world would not completely lose their fear after facing it once. The so-called once bitten by a snake, 10 years afraid of the rope, is exactly like this. Even though they were mentally prepared, when the rapid, urgent knocking rang out, Junlu Yuan still jumped in fright and screamed. He carefully cracked open an eye, seeing the strange, tall, and gaunt black shadow had reappeared in their room. Wen Qingya's earlier speculation had been correct. Fortunately, after the experience of the first night, the next time they faced this situation, they were a bit calmer. The woman in black still came to check on them as usual, then went to the desk again, starting to quickly flip through the blank sketchbook on the table. "Why can't I find it?" A voice colder than the rainwater made Junlu Yuan shudder, his body curling up under the blanket. In his heart, he prayed for this woman in black to leave quickly. Before entering this crimson door, he thought he was prepared to die. But when he truly experienced the horror of the crimson door, Junlu Yuan realized that when facing death, it was very difficult to remain as calm as he had imagined. About 10 minutes passed. The woman in black before the desk finally finished examining the blank sketchbook and silently left. A long while later, after confirming there was no movement in the room, Junlu Yuan finally let out a sigh of relief. Junlu Yuan didn't disturb Ning Chushui's rest, simply lying on his back and staring ceiling, trying to calm his chaotic thoughts. Don't think about the paintings on the first-floor corridor. At that moment, Ning Chushui suddenly spoke up to remind him. Junlu Yuan was startled, then immediately understood. "Brother Chushui, earlier when you turned like that, could it be?" Ning Chushui answered decisively. The Crimson Door mission reminder said, "Don't stare at it for too long. Facing it in your mind also counts as facing it." Hearing that, Junlu Yuan couldn't help but swallow. Damn, too sinister. Facing it in memory also counts as facing it. No wonder Pang Yun Yuan mysteriously disappeared earlier. This ghost's method of killing is truly unpredictable. "Brother Chu Shui, who do you think wants to kill us?" Junlu Yuan felt he couldn't swallow this anger, still brooding over this issue. Ning Chushui told him, "I have a hypothesis, but it needs verification. We have to wait until tomorrow morning to meet the others to confirm." Seeing this, Junlu Yuan didn't disturb his rest anymore. Finally, dawn arrived. Early in the morning, while Junlu Yuan was drowsily sleeping, he heard fierce arguing and cursing in the corridor. "Still saying it wasn't you guys. Yesterday there were only 2 groups. Don't you know in your hearts who did it?" "That's right. What do you mean we did it? We were also targeted last night." "Haha, if it weren't for Su Xiaoxiao being alert, we would have fallen into your trap. Still pretending to be good people, reminding us not to touch the sketchbook and pen on the table. What if we hadn't seen it?" Everyone's curses echoed in the corridor. Junlu Yuan silently sat up. He saw Ning Chu Shui didn't seem in a hurry to go out, but was calmly washing his face in the bathroom like yesterday. "Brother Chu Shui, aren't we going out?" he asked. Ning Chu Shui's mouth was full of toothpaste foam, answering unclearly. "Watch the show, no rush, let them argue for a bit." Junlu Yuan nodded slightly. Staying with Ning Chu Shui, he was gradually influenced by his calm attitude. Only after Ning Chu Shui finished washing his face did they open the door to go out. By then, everyone had realized something was off, so the arguing wasn't as loud as before. "Not going for breakfast early in the morning? What are you all making such a fuss about here?" Ning Chu Shui said. Everyone simultaneously looked at him, their eyes carrying a hint of sharpness that was hard to understand. "Didn't you 2 encounter anything last night?" Wen Qingya asked in a not-so-pleasant tone. Ning Chu Shui smoothed his hair. "No, only the woman in black came." "Why?" Wen Qingya frowned. "I mean, wasn't the blank sketchbook on your table touched by anyone?" Ningqiu Shui nodded. Yes, someone drew a line on it, but last night I threw our sketchbook into the opposite room. Hearing Ningqiu Shui's answer, the tense atmosphere among everyone significantly eased. Because they discovered that all the survivors from last night had encountered the same problem, their sketchbooks had all been tampered with by someone. Damn it, did we run into a ghost? Could it be the butler and the black-robed madam? Idiot, if it were the butler and the madam, would only 4 of us have died on the first day? Then who? Everyone was bewildered, trying to guess. Ningqiu Shui counted the remaining people. Exceeding his expectations, only 2 had died last night. Currently, 8 of them remained. For the entire group, this was good news. It meant most of them were still alert, and quite a few had kept their wits about them. Guangyong, I have a question for you. Ningqiu Shui looked at Guangyong and spoke. Guangyong was slightly startled, then immediately nodded. Go ahead. Ningqiu Shui cleared his throat. Yesterday, when everyone was looking for the butler on the first floor, someone went missing, right? I want to know, did that person scream or make any sound at the time? Guangyong's expression changed slightly, and he nodded. Yes, there was a terrible scream. Ning Shui narrowed his eyes, suddenly breaking into a smile that sent chills down everyone's spines. Then it's correct. The remaining 7 people were all dumbfounded. Correct about what? Ningqiu Shui looked around and slowly uttered a sentence that made their hair stand on end. Up to now, the survivors aren't 8, but 9. 9? What? Hearing Ningqiu Shui's words, everyone looked at each other, and some even foolishly started counting again. How can there be 9? We clearly only have 8. I counted 8 too. Ningqiu Shui, did you miscount? Su Xiaoxiao, who had been silent until now, suddenly spoke up. Brother Chu Shui, do you mean the person who disappeared from rooms 214 and 215 on the first night actually didn't meet with misfortune, but intentionally hid? Ningqiu Shui nodded. That's right. Yesterday, when we were looking for clues on the 3rd floor, Pang Yun also disappeared. Before disappearing, he also let out a terrible scream. So, I believe the reason Pang Yun Yuan disappeared is the same as the person in Guangyong's team. They both triggered the same death rule. But the person who disappeared on the first night is different. He didn't scream at all. Therefore, that person likely didn't trigger a rule, but faked his death and hid, waiting for a moment when everyone was distracted to kill them all. That way, his chances of survival would increase greatly. Unfortunately, that night, Lu Yuan happened to be awake and saw the madam only take away 3 bodies. Hearing Ningqiu Shui's analysis, everyone was furious. Damn it, that bastard dared to play us. Damn him, hiding in the shadows, killing us all, and in the end, only he benefits. Son of a bitch, I'm not doing any tasks today. I have to catch that animal. Seeing this, Wen Qingya frowned again. Calm down. Even if you find him, you can't do anything to him. I must remind you, don't kill people recklessly in the Crimson Door. It harms yourself little, but harms others greatly. First, find the person. Then we can decide how to deal with him later. Wen Qingya spoke these cruel words with utter calm. In reality, those who had undergone multiple Crimson Door cleansing rituals in the Mist World were already accustomed to this. Since direct killing wasn't possible, many chose to act covertly, using the rules for stabbing someone in the back. A person who dies like that, even if they turn into a vengeful spirit, would have no target for revenge. After Wen Qingya finished speaking, everyone gradually calmed down. After all, they too grew up in the Mist World. Living in peace and under the law for many years has made their morals slightly higher than those of wild beasts. Except for a small minority, most people still don't want to stain their hands with the blood of their own kind. Actually, we can guess where he went. After all, the castle is only so big. He wouldn't dare go to the 3rd floor, and the 1st floor was searched yesterday. So that only leaves the rooms on the 2nd floor we haven't entered yet. Su Xiaoxiao crossed her arms, a flash of killing intent in her eyes. If she hadn't suspected Wen Qingya last night and gone to look at the empty sketchbook on the table, she might have been a cold corpse today. Almost being wrongfully killed, any normal person would find it hard to stay calm. Hearing Su Xiaoxiao, everyone immediately began searching the 2nd floor. Sure enough, not long after, a loud shout came from room 212. Found him! Grab him quick! Don't let this bastard run. Damn it, I'll beat you to death." Along with those curses, a woman's miserable scream echoed on the second floor. "Ah! Don't hit me. I didn't mean to. I entered the Crimson Door alone. I have no teammates. I don't want to die. I don't want to die." Everyone rushed to room 212 and saw a thin man grabbing a woman by the hair. The woman's face was swollen, clearly having been slapped hard. She was curled up on the ground, trembling. Seeing her pitiful state, no one felt any sympathy, including Wen Qingya and the other woman. In fact, their gazes were even colder. People often say, "Why should women make things difficult for women?" But the person before them wanted to take their lives for no reason. How could they tolerate that? "You don't want to die, but what about us? Did any of us do anything to you? Tell us." "Damn it, a woman's heart is truly the most venomous." Wen Qingya frowned. She stepped forward, using her finger to lift the chin of the sobbing woman. Then, in front of everyone, she slapped her hard. Slap! The woman let out a miserable cry, blood streaming from her nose, her face swollen. "If it weren't for the rule in the Crimson Door that forbids killing, I would definitely stab you to death." Wen Qingya looked frail, but her voice was icy cold as she said those words. The woman sat on the ground, wailing loudly. "Yes, I wanted to kill you all, but I just wanted to survive. I don't have money to hire people online. I don't have teammates. The old-timers in the ghost dwelling didn't want to help me. I can't die. I can't die. My mother has heart disease. If I die, she definitely won't survive either. I'm sorry. I'm sorry." Seeing her crying so miserably, everyone was momentarily at a loss. They couldn't kill her, but letting her go wasn't an option either. Who knew what else this vicious woman might do if released? Use the bed sheets to tie her up, then lock her in a room. Give her a little food during the day, just enough so she doesn't starve. As long as she doesn't cause more trouble, having one more or one less person won't make much difference. Su Xiaoxiao sighed. He truly detested this woman, but upon hearing that her mother had a heart condition, his heart softened. After a brief discussion, everyone agreed with Su Xiaoxiao's suggestion. They could be merciful and spare this woman named Luo Yu Xin. That was already the utmost of their kindness. This wasn't because they were moved by compassion, but because they hadn't yet found a better solution for the time being. After tying her up and locking her in a room, everyone left the second floor and went down to the main hall for breakfast. The lady arrived right on schedule. Only today, everyone noticed something different about her. While eating, the lady's pale, pupilless eyes kept staring fixedly at them. That cold gaze seemed to carry a sense of judgment. Being stared at by the lady in black made everyone feel a chill run down their spines, as if a sharp blade were hanging over their necks, ready to drop at any moment. This feeling had never occurred during previous meals. The remaining 8 people all clearly perceived that, as time passed, the lady in black was changing. She seemed to increasingly desire to kill them, to the point of showing it even during daytime meals. Clearly, the Crimson Door was gradually loosening its restraints on the lady in black. It could be inferred that if by the 5th day they still hadn't found the main gate key to the manor, then I'm afraid a bloody massacre would occur within this ancient castle. Thinking of this, everyone couldn't help but shudder. The lady quickly finished the food on her tray, then stood up and left as usual. After she left, the atmosphere became slightly more bearable. Damn it, does that hag want to kill us even in broad daylight now? Liao Jian couldn't help but mutter. Su Xiaoxiao beside him sneered. Aren't you just stating the obvious? This Crimson Door mission requires us to find the manor's main gate key by the 5th day to escape. You don't actually think we could survive peacefully in this ancient castle with the previous killing rules, do you? I dare bet, by the 5th day, this woman in black will definitely undergo terrifying changes. Liao Jian glared at him. I'm not as stupid as you think. I was just lamenting. Hearing this, Xiao Xiao suddenly bit his lip, putting on a cute expression, gently tugged at Liao Jian's sleeve, and whispered, I'm sorry, Liao Jian Jie. Liao Jian shuddered and hurriedly moved to sit somewhere else. In the eyes of outsiders, Su Xiaoxiao was a coquettish beauty, but he knew this beauty was a man. What should we do today? Yesterday we cleaned up almost all the necessary places in the ancient castle. Places we could access had no clues, and places with clues we couldn't enter. Wen Qingya at this moment also felt a headache coming on. She raised a hand to gently massage her temples, her thoughts beginning to grow chaotic. This was the clearest manifestation of a person in a high-pressure environment. If one couldn't endure such an environment, or didn't know how to adjust in time, even an intelligent person would gradually become foolish. The Crimson Door won't issue death rules. After we finish eating, we can take a walk around. Also, be careful with the paintings in the first-floor hallway. Try to figure out their meaning. Ning Shui finished the porridge in his bowl, picked up the plate of bread beside it, and casually reminded everyone. 8 people remained. Since it was unclear whether there were any other death rules in the ancient castle, Ning Shui didn't want them to die pointlessly. Who knows, these survivors might even help him uncover a new death rule. After the meal, everyone gradually left the table. When Su Xiaoxiao and Liao Jian went out, they saw Ning Shui still sitting in his seat, chewing on bread, and couldn't help but ask, "Brother Shui, aren't you going?" Ning Shui didn't look up, waiting for someone. Su Xiaoxiao and Liao Jian exchanged glances and immediately understood who he was waiting for, the butler. After a moment's thought, Su Xiaoxiao grabbed Liao Jian's hand and sat down too. Then, "Brother Shui, you don't mind if we wait with you, do you?" Su Xiaoxiao gently bit his lip, glancing flirtatiously at Ning Shui, that shy expression completely unlike a man. Ning Shui ignored him, calmly cutting the bread on his plate, his gaze indifferent. "Suit yourself." At 10 o'clock, the butler arrived right on time, pushing a cart. He began clearing the dishes from the table. Ning Shui stared at the shimmering silver cross on the butler's neck and said, "Nair, I've found the young master." Hearing this, the busy butler immediately stopped, looking up to stare at Ning Shui. The professional smile on his face gradually warmed. "Is that so? May I ask, where is the young master?" Ning Shui said, "I'll tell you the young master's location, and you tell me where the key to the manor's main gate is." The butler was silent for a moment, then said, "Agreed." Hearing this, Ning Shui stood up, step by step approaching the butler, leaning close to his ear, and whispered, "He's inside the paintings in the first-floor hallway." The butler listened, muttering to himself, "No wonder we couldn't find the young master for so long. Turns out he was hiding in the paintings." Ning Shui straightened up and said to him, "Nier, now it's your turn to answer my question." The butler stared at Ning Shui with cold eyes for a long time before finally speaking, "The key to open the manor's main gate is in the hands of the young master's father." Thump! Su Xiaoxiao almost immediately stood up from his chair, anxiously asking, "Nier, where is the young master's father?" Faced with his hurried question, the butler still ignored him, continuing to clear the items, then pushed the cart away. Just as he was about to disappear into the darkness at the end of the hallway, the butler's voice echoed again. "The madam does not like strangers on the 3rd floor." Then he completely vanished. Ning Shui's eyes flickered repeatedly. The butler had repeated this sentence 3 times. At first, they didn't pay much attention, but now, Ning Shui sensed something abnormal. Rather than saying this was a warning from the butler, it was more like a reminder. He said that sentence 3 times. Could it be he's trying to remind us of something? No? Liao Jian fell into deep thought. Su Xiaoxiao beside him gently patted his head, smiling. "Oh, our Jian has finally become smart." Liao Jian glared at him irritably. "Go away, get lost." Ning Shui glanced at Junlu Yuan, who was lost in thought beside him, and asked, "Do you have any ideas?" Junlu Yuan nodded. "I think we might need some items that belong to the servants who once worked in this manor, such as clothes, tools. With these things, we might be able to go to the castle's 3rd floor without being detected by the portraits." From the very beginning, the butler had hinted at a way for them to reach the 3rd floor. It seems there really is an important secret there. Ning Shui narrowed his eyes. He felt they were very close to the truth. The answers about the past of the Monica Manor and what happened to the young master's father were probably in the room at the end of the eastern corridor on the castle's 3rd floor. "Let's search first. There must be clues on the 1st and 2nd floors." All 3 nodded. If they didn't go to the castle's 3rd floor, the risk of danger would be lower, so everyone split up to search. Soon, Ningqiu Shui found some old clothes in an abandoned storage room on the castle's first floor. From these clothes, it was clear they belonged to servants who once worked in the castle. It was just unknown where these servants had ultimately gone. If we wear these clothes, perhaps we won't be considered outsiders anymore? Ningqiu Shui thought, taking some clothes and returning to the first floor hall. Not long after, Su Xiao and the others also found some things and returned. With these items, perhaps we won't be rejected by the portraits on the third floor anymore. Jun Luyuan spoke up. But it's still not completely certain, so for safety, I think we should call the others over, then go to the third floor together. If we encounter any problems, we can support each other. His words were quite discreet, but Ningqiu Shui knew that Jun Luyuan wanted to borrow the others' ghost artifacts to reduce the risk for his own group. So young, yet already so calculating. I agree with Luyuan's opinion. We can't let those people sit idle and reap benefits. Everyone entered the same crimson door, so naturally we should share fortune and face misfortune together. Su Xiao felt Jun Luyuan's idea suited him very well. So, they found the others wandering on the first and second floors, called them over, and told them the plan. Guangyong and the others listened and didn't refuse at all. No problem. We'll split into two groups. One group will send someone to the third floor window to monitor the black-dressed madam, while the others go to the room at the end of the eastern corridor to search for clues. We have so many people and quite a few ghost artifacts on us. If we really encounter danger, we can still handle it calmly. It must be said that cooperating with sensible teammates greatly reduces difficulties. Everyone quickly decided on the plan and distributed the clothes and tools. After lunch, they quietly waited until the madam went to the church to pray. Everyone stood at the window, watching the black-dressed lady enter the church, then immediately took action. They changed into the servants' clothes from the castle, brought along some related tools, and together headed to the third floor of the castle. Jun Luyuan and another thin man stood guard at the window. The remaining 6 carefully made their way toward the eastern corridor, which was hung with portraits of the black-dressed lady. As they passed through the corridor, the eyes of the black-dressed lady in the portraits all stared fixedly at them, utterly terrifying. Fortunately, this time no water seeped out from the portraits. Clearly, the portraits of the black-dressed lady now regarded them as servants of the castle. "We've succeeded!" Everyone cheered silently in their hearts, extremely excited. They walked along the corridor to the innermost room. In fact, there was only one room in this corridor. This was the lady's bedroom. Guangyong took the lead, placed his hand on the doorknob, gently turned it, and the door opened. The room was no different from an ordinary woman's bedroom. Everyone searched roughly, realizing there seemed to be no useful clues in this room. "Something's not right." Ningqiu Shui looked at the room's arrangement and suddenly spoke up. "Brother Chu Shui, what's not right?" Su Xiao, with sharp ears, noticed Ningqiu Shui had discovered something and hurriedly asked. Ningqiu Shui replied, "The lady goes to the church punctually every day. For such a devout believer, there isn't a single religious item in her room. Even the butler Nair wears a cross, but here the lady has nothing. It's completely empty. Don't you find that strange?" Hearing this, everyone suddenly understood. That's right. As a believer, the lady should at least wear a cross, shouldn't she? Unless, Ningqiu Shui narrowed his eyes, the lady isn't a Christian believer at all. Everyone was stunned. Not a Christian believer? Then why does she go to the church to pray? Guangyong questioned. Wen Qingya seemed to realize something. If she's not a believer, then she wouldn't need to go to the church to pray every day. But what if the lady isn't going there to pray? She spoke, then continued muttering to herself, not to pray. Do you all remember that boy named Jun Luyuan? On the first night, didn't he see the lady dragging 3 corpses to the church? Actually, we should have realized it back then. The lady goes to the church every day, perhaps for a different purpose. Ningqiu Shui pondered for a moment, then voiced his thoughts. This morning, the butler told me that the key to the manor's main gate is in the hands of the young master's father. And yesterday when I asked him, where is the young master's father? He inadvertently glanced at the plaster statue of Jesus Christ beside our dining table. At the time, I thought the young master's father had been killed by the black-dressed lady and his body buried inside that plaster statue. But after what we experienced last night, I'm almost certain that the young master's father is a monster, and likely even more terrifying than the black-dressed lady. The butler's gaze back then might have been hinting to me that the young master's father is inside the church. I think that's precisely why the madam comes to the church every day. If you enjoyed this story, please hit the like button and subscribe to support me.